Hey everybody, ROTL UK just getting set up here for the show. Matt, Tom, Steve, Ash, and Ant coming, I think, in just a moment. How you doing, boys?
Doing great.
Slight sense of disbelief. I don't think this is a dream.
They started quoting Bohemian Rhapsody in the chat before we started, and I was like, no escape from reality. Yeah, okay. How you doing, Tom?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. You
Love
never
it.
know. I'm glad you felt that way, Steve, because today, I don't know if it's the lack of sleep or whatever, but part of me did wake up this morning being like, did that actually happen? And not just in a, I don't know, not even hyperbolic way, but I genuinely woke up feeling that for a minute.
Just
All a bit of a, fever dream.
I've just been on cloud nine all day, just utterly euphoric, like nothing's touching me. It's great.
I think one of the best things as well is that, like, it's at this time of year in the NFL, it's very much like us and them, isn't it? In terms of like, are you one of those teams, or are you like a playoff team, or you like a Panthers, who all you can think of is next season, and like watching the Cowboys meltdown today, and the kind of like after effects of the Cowboys game, like it just makes you so glad that you're not one of those like dysfunctional franchises that is just about to go into like another death spiral of like just complete implosion, and then the consequences in the off season. So you're just so glad that like you're one of those teams rather than one of those teams.
Mm.
And it's mad that a season and a half ago, we were the Panthers, basically, right? But we probably didn't at least have a rookie quarterback that we thought hopefully might turn in something. But it's mad.
Do you remember
to
how
think
the
that
Panthers
is
beat us in
one and a
that
half
game
seasons ago? Say again.
when we were just getting momentum in that middle season, and the Panthers absolutely shat on us,
Yeah.
and just destroyed the season. Like, oh my god.
I don't know if you have seen what was posted in the Discord by Bria Gallahue. I have no idea how you say it. Bria Gallahue is what Rap Sheet was just talking about. Apparently, Goff in the trade for Stafford was a pure throw-in. The trade was 2 1s and a 3 for Stafford, and Goff wasn't coming the other way. And we just said, can we have Goff? And they were like, okay.
That was our final bargaining chip, right? Which is mad.
I mean, yeah, so basically, at the lowest point of his career, we took him on for free. No compensation. And I think a lot of people would have looked on that as a bad deal, considering his contract at the time.
Well, I mean, lots of people were saying the only reason we got the extra one was for taking on his contract, right?
Well, I thought that.
Yeah. So, and I don't think that was, I mean, obviously wasn't proven true, but it also wasn't proven like completely false. As in, I think people just like you could believe it either way, right? And now, I mean, he's coming to the end of his contract? It's not really fair, but what would Goff get traded for now? It's not going to be a complete haul, but he's definitely got value, right? So
I think that if you re-upped Goff for 2 years, so he had 3 years remaining on his deal after this season, that he would be worth, if it was a...
What would the Falcons give, let's say? Because Falcons are a pretty good roster, pretty good, with a clear quarterback issue.
Wasn't it because I remember when the Panthers were offering their first, which is obviously one right after ours, and something else, we just straight turned that down?
We had 7, which was Sewell.
Yeah.
They offered 8 and Teddy, who was their starting quarterback at the time. And who got unfairly dumped by Carolina, really. He had several good seasons there, and they were like, but it's not star-worthy, so you're off. Mm-hmm. I think he's probably worth a 1 and a 2. Like an average 1 and an average 2.
Yeah, I think you'd have to. So with the Falcons specifically, who have the 8th pick for the 3rd year in a row, lol. I don't think they'd give up 8 for him, but maybe they would. I think they might want something coming back as well. But I mean, the fact we're even having this discussion is kind of mad.
I do not think that you could get him for the 8th overall pick anyway. But even
I
then,
agree.
I don't think the Falcons. I don't think the Falcons would think that they could get it done for that either.
That'd be interesting.
I think the Falcons would value him more highly.
What did Devante Adams go for? Was it a second round pick?
2 1s, wasn't it?
2 1s, I think. Yeah.
Give me 10 seconds.
Yeah, it was 2 first-round picks. Joseph Austin just said, "Yo, Adrian, I did it! I did it!" No copyright strikes, please. That was sort of pitch. There's no risk of that. Steve, you were talking about Cooper Kupp, or we were talking about Cooper Kupp. He got rested last week. Going back for his last 4 games, 4 of 6 for 27 yards and a touchdown. These are consecutive weeks. 4 of 6 for 27 and a touchdown. 6 of 12 for 52. 8 of 8 for 111 and a touchdown. 8 of 10 for 115 and a touchdown. Those are back-to-back weeks. So although his production had fallen recently, he'd had 2 straight 100-yard games recently. So
who were those against?
Baltimore and Washington.
Oh, well, wow. Baltimore, wow.
Baltimore, 8 of 10 for 115 and a touchdown in their overtime loss. Like, I think Cooper Kupp is carrying an injury that is probably a bit more week to week rather than day to day, and just it is how you feel in the morning.
He doesn't seem anything like the player that he did like a year ago.
And yet, you know, he tore Baltimore a new one. So, he definitely had it in him. I just want to say hello to everyone in the chat as Ant comes in. Who have we got? We've got Jeff Hurley with the super sticker, $10. Thank you very much, Jeff. Grandize is in there. Mile Marker, Brian Shook, Lions Rumble 81, Jerry G, Drew Howard, Bob O'Land, Joseph Austin, Dan Flynn. Lions Talk by Chat Sports, which is Micro Mike, Ashley Bellinger, Janzi, Ben Cohen. Ben asked how many times Cooper Kupp was targeted yesterday. He was targeted 9 times, 5 catches, 27 yards. So short, very short distances. And in the Twitch chat as well, Lost Oceans in there, who also redeemed Matt drink a beer. I am drinking a beer. Last time you said you don't have to chug it, I'm taking your advice. Dan Pask is in there with Detroit. And Mike the Marine as well. Welcome, everybody. If you want to shout out just before we start, come and say hello. We're just waiting for Ant to say hello as well. Anyone got any thoughts on a title for the show that's especially clever? I just have same time next week, ? As the title, which is simple, I guess. Which is forever who I am at heart.
I'd say just we did it. Or it happened, or I don't know.
Matt Stafford finally wins a playoff game for the Lions.
Too long-winded, I think. But although I like the sentiment of it. I'm happy for the players.
Yeah,
That's a good title.
and people were asking about. We'll probably get onto it in the actual public audio, but people were asking why we were booing Stafford.
We weren't booing Stafford. We were booing the Rams.
The whole
Rams.
whole end-to-end 7 days of the post Stafford thing has been nauseous for most of it, to be honest.
Same.
Just like it's such a non-event in every dimension, which we'll come to on the pod, but it's all complete nonsense.
No one cares. No one cares about Stafford. It's a past.
As I was saying, sorry.
Whereas if Matt Patricia came to Detroit, we'd fucking boo him until we couldn't boo anymore.
No, are you kidding me? I'm celebrating Patricia. The reason we are here is because of Patricia.
The reason I've got no hair left and no will to live sometimes is because of Patricia. So no, not a fair trade.
It's playing the long game to an extreme, Tom.
It's a good day.
Patricia and Jim Bob Cooter.
Full energy.
Oh, don't forget Bobby Quinn.
Jim Bob Cooter wasn't even the worst offensive coordinator we had in that regime.
Noise records will be broken. if that fat twat ever comes back to Ford Field. I
Wouldn't
guarantee
it be
you now.
That sounded
Wouldn't it be amazing if he came, if he turned up at Ford Field on his little mini tractor?
on the
That's a little
ATV,
TV.
I'd actually respect that a lot, in fairness.
just riding around like. "Ah!" And I thought he sounded a bit like Theoden King giving a speech to his men before battle. Then shields will be splintered. The decibel limit will be broken.
It will be. I'll be booing from home. Like no one will hear me, but I will still boo. That is the strength of feeling. So
Get a few noise
that is that'll be, we can put the Stafford booing thing. No, that's not booing. This is fucking booing. Like that was nothing.
What worse can you do? I'm just trying to think of what more insulting things can you do to Matt Patricia. Like
Could just do the Braveheart thing. Just
that's-
everybody bends over and moons the
that's
fuck out.
exactly
of him.
what
Like,
I was thinking.
There you go.
Everyone
That'll be
fucking
fun.
mooning him, but the coverage has to cut away because they can't show it.
Yeah, it's the light. It's the light show. Not at the minute. It's
Ah.
not.
Swapping his Gatorade for Slim Fast.
Sorry, but I will never stop hating him. So ever.
Thank you to Detroit subscribing at tier 1 for their 8th month. Appreciate you very, very much. Yeah, that was brilliant. And we're at home again next week, so it's a beautiful thing. We can talk about Dallas at the end of the show, I guess.
That's if all the Dallas fans haven't left by the end.
Please, I really want to go 6-0 in the picks for the wildcard rounds, because that would be fucking impressive. Like, I would be so happy with myself. Just gotta cheer on. I know you don't want Tampa to win, but it would legitimately be an easier game, and I want to fucking win the Super Bowl. Like, I hate Matt Patricia. I'd love to beat him. I also want to win.
I don't care who wins. Either we get to beat him or we get to beat Tampa. So, like, we win either way.
See him, they've ruled AJ Brown out.
Yeah.
No AJ Brown. Hurts is struggling to throw a ball.
Devonta Smith's disappeared.
I wanted to
Speaking
make a
of
joke about
speak-
him being really small then, but
Speaking of disappeared, has Aaron Donald reappeared yet? Did they lose him on that delayed flight back to LA?
he jumped offside once, and then he was like, "Oh, I can't possibly cross the line. No, I'm scared."
Well, it didn't matter if they were jumping across the line; it weren't getting called.
Yeah, exactly. It was full starts on us.
Well, no, but before,
I think if you check Penny Sewell's pockets, you'll find him in there.
along
That's
with the rest
probably
of that
isn't it?
vaunted line as well.
Like Kobe Turner did nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like absolutely nothing.
yeah, anonymous.
Saddens me.
And Hoyt was worse than nothing because he was asked to bloody cover. Like, that was awful. Having Hoyt on Sam Laporta several times was like, what are you doing? And that's a credit to Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson got it done. Right.
That's why you put the offense out the other week. They look pretty fresh to me and ready to go.
Yeah, they did. All right. I'm just going to leave the episode title as it is. Is everyone ready to go? Oh, yes. I forgot that. Good point. Yeah, so everyone's on holiday, aren't they, at the moment? Vacation.
Yeah.
Vacation day.
Because the Pistons are in pre-game, and I was like, wait, what? It's 3 p.m. Eastern, but it's, because it's holiday.
Makes sense. All right. Just put stuff in there. Okay, here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Brawl of the Lions UK podcast, episode 249. Same time next week. My name is Matthew Turner, alongside Steve and Tom and Anne and Ash. How you doing, boys?
Doing great.
The Detroit Lions won a playoff game the same day the Dallas Cowboys lost one. That is a pretty perfect day, if you ask me.
Calm as a bitch.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty hard to summarize the energy that was going on this time. Well, not this time last night, but yeah, I feel almost on a bit of a come down now because probably a little light on sleep. But it's tough to be as hyped as we all were yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was absolutely incredible. Thank you for tuning into this show, and thank you for, if you have been with us since the beginning, kind of coming round to the culmination of everything that we've been doing this last 3.5 years. You absolutely deserve it. Of course, we are going to be reviewing Rams at Lions for the wildcard victory for the Lions' first playoff victory since 1991, second since 1957. They will play the winner of Tampa versus Philly tonight and will play at 3 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, which, 3 p.m.? Yes,
Yep.
which is
Yep.
the perfect time to play football, basically, for everyone, which is lovely stuff. A bit of preamble to start, and then we're going to get on with the business. So, Discord channel was a fantastic place to be yesterday. You need to be there. Links in the chat right now. Come and join us. And College Football Podcast, what's coming up?
It's a breakdown of the Hula Bowl defensive roster this week. The game took place on Saturday, but we did the offense last week, doing the defense this week. So lots of small school players you get to hear about from us.
Of course, the draft is coming. It's only 3.5 months away, and we will be in Detroit. So if you want to meet us, you know what to do. And if you want to know your stuff, then you know what to do as well. Please don't forget to like this episode, sub to the podcast, all that good stuff. Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized, tip jar down below. If you're enjoying what you're listening to and want to show some love that way, that'd be great. But don't worry, just listening is all we need. And the merch store is live too. Links in the chat as well. If you want to celebrate and contribute to the show by getting something back in return, like a hoodie or a cap or anything like that, you can find that at that link. All right. As I said, Lions win first playoff game since 1991, first home playoff game since 1993, and effectively in the reseedings now become the 2 seed, which, as we all know, is where they should have been in the first place. Maybe even the 1 seed. Who knows? But anyway, actually, they should have been the 1 seed. San Francisco lost. So, you know, it'd be nice if San Francisco was to lose to the Packers, but we'll see. Anyway, Rams 23, Lions 24. Looking at the stats for this game, Stafford had himself a day. 25 of 36 for 367 and 2 touchdowns. This despite having a pretty nasty cut on his hand for about 2.5 quarters of the game. Rushing the ball was a bit of a struggle for LA. They had 17 for 68 on the ground in total. Receiving, Puka Nacua was absolutely exceptional. 9 of 10 for 181 and a touchdown. Tutu Atwell also had 1 of 1 for 38 and a touchdown. Otherwise, no one got above 44 yards for them apart from Puka. So they had 367 yards through the air, but Puka basically had half of that. On offense for the Lions, Jared Goff, 22 of 27, 277 and a touchdown. He started out 10 for 10 in a hyper-efficient performance. On the ground, the Lions didn't actually have a huge amount of yards, only 25 carries for 79 yards at just over 3 yards a carry. But they did get 2 touchdowns on the ground. Montgomery was 14 for 57 and a touchdown, and Gibbs 8 for 25 and a touchdown. Receiving, Amon-Ra St. Brown over 100 yards once again. He was 7 of 9 for 110. Josh Reynolds got 75 in the first quarter, but only ended up with 80. He was 5 of 7. Jahmyr Gibbs was productive, 4 of 4 for 43. Sam Laporta was very good as well, despite being obviously limited. 3 of 3 for 14 and a touchdown. Don't forget, as well as the touchdown, his catch at the end of a busted possession for us that ended in a field goal would not have been a field goal attempt without those crucial 5 yards to allow Badgley the chance from 54. So not only did he get a touchdown, but he probably put those points on the board as well. There were 2 fumbles in the game. Puka fumbled out of bounds, and Jared Goff had a play we'll come to where he pitched the ball behind him under pressure, and Brock Wright got back on top of it, which is great. The Rams were jointly led in tackles by Ernest Jones and Quentin Lake with 9 apiece. They had 3 sacks, 2 by Ernest Jones, and then 1 shared by Hoyt and Kobe Turner. And then there were three other tackles for a loss. Christian Roseboom, Byron Young, Jonah Williams. Detroit led on tackles by Alex Anzalone with 8. We had 2 sacks, both by Aiden Hutchinson. They were not exactly the hardest of sacks, but he was productive in other ways. 3 other tackles for loss, 2 by Alex Anzalone, 1 by Kindle Vildor. And the kickers were perfect on the day, despite Badgley and Mayer being maybe 2 of the most eviscerated starting kickers in the National Football League. Mayer was 3 of 3 in field goals, 2 of 2 in extra points, and Badgley 1 of 1 in field goals and 3 of 3 in extra points. Jack Fox had himself a day as well, don't forget. 148 yards on his 3 punts. Boys, high-level takes from the game. Lions started out hot on defense and then couldn't get anything going in the second half, but the defense basically had the opposite experience.
Yeah, I think just first of all, from a bigger picture, it was the game that we all needed, because the wild card weekend effectively was 3 blowout games, and I think everyone wanted to see a close game, and it was good that it was certainly the most entertaining game out of any played so far this weekend. But yeah, we got it done, and we absolutely made a massive statement in that first quarter, and the way that we came out the gate and just really stamped our authority on the Rams. It was just so pleasing to see, because the expectation levels for everyone were so sky high, and I think the worst thing possible, with the atmosphere at Ford Field absolutely off the chain, it would have just been horrific if we'd have just frozen and just crumbled under the pressure. So to see us come out and just absolutely go through the Rams defense, and then continue to outscore them, it all started to tighten up in the second half, and I kind of felt we were really hanging on, particularly probably the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth. But the way that we came back and just gritted it out and made those crucial plays, Goff absolutely clutch, and it's just a momentous day for all of us, all Lions fans, the city of Detroit, just loving it.
My heart rate would disagree that was the game we needed. I would have loved to blown out myself, the other 3, but of course it was always going to be.
Is it ever an easy Lions victory ever? Come on.
No, it's not. It's just the way of it, isn't it? The way of the cardiac. It's what we're going to be forever and a day. But at the end of the day, we won. I didn't really care about how we were going to do it. Like I said, I would have taken 2-0 from a safety or something like that. You've just got to get over that mental barrier, get your first win, and then everything sort of just gets easier after that. And that's what they did. They came out, and let's face it, the offense absolutely eviscerated them. It just absolutely went to pound town, destroyed the Rams defense, ran all over them. The running backs barely got touched in that first quarter and a half. And then the defense stepped up when it needed to afterwards. When one part of the team was needed, they did their job. Special teams, defense, offense, keeping Stafford 2 of 7 in the red zones. That's hard, especially when he's got superstar receivers who can make things happen there. It's what they're really good at, finishing off when they get in there. So for everybody to step up and do what they needed to was fantastic, and it just fed off all the energy. And it was, you get to the end and you think, God, I've seen this. It's 1 point, they can get the ball. Are they going to kick the field goal? No, you make the stop. You get the first down you need. It's a different team. It's felt like a different team for a very long time now. The old teams would have screwed that up. Ours, it got tough. It did what it needed to and won, and I'm absolutely ecstatic. It was a really good game from them, under tons of pressure, under tons of expectation. They survived.
And I think just to build on that, my biggest takeaway is really we had after that incredible start, the first 3 drives, we had every opportunity to turn that into a same old Lions narrative. And that was halfway through the second quarter. From that point on, really all the way until that final pass to Amon-Ra. there were opportunities where things could have gone against, well, things did go against us. It could have broken us. We could have made mistakes. We could have done something historically Lions to make sure we didn't win. And we didn't. And actually, I think there's been chat around the end of same old Lions and all of that. I think if we beat them by 20 comfortably, people would say it probably is. But for me, it's to, yes, go up against Stafford, but also be in a game where actually you are facing some adversity. And you do have a guy on the other end who you know if you give him a chance, he's going to take advantage of it and still getting the job done. And a lot of that being on the defense, the much maligned defense as well. To me, that's what's really the end of same old Lions. And I guess the big headline is 31 years and we got a playoff victory. But for me, the kind of the death of that era is super important. And if you would have asked me when we hired this regime, would I have taken a division win? I probably wouldn't. If you would have offered me a playoff win and the death of same old Lions, I absolutely would. So now I've truly, obviously we're greedy. We want to go further this year and future years, but I truly believe that we are almost playing with house money at this stage.
I don't have much more to say. We all saw how I reacted to the game yesterday. Started off so well. Some of those plays, like the play designs and that, were amazing. Like, I know we're going to get into it, but for example, Sam Laporte's touchdown, what a good idea to sort of come out and jumbo and do all that. But to be fair, like the defense didn't start off that badly either. Like we held them in that first quarter to 3 points, admittedly on over like a drive and a half, but when it came to it in the red zone, we nailed down. And it's something I think I highlighted in halftime. I was like, that might become key, is this red zone efficiency, because we were 3 of 3 in the red zone. They were 0 of 3. And it held. All their touchdowns came from outside the red zone. Again, coming to my favorite catchphrase that I keep saying, I'd rather be in a third and short than a third and long, because for some reason, third and longs are our kryptonite, like tight ends used to be. That when it came to it, defense became truly bend, don't break, and they had to throw everything at us. So the first one, they just Stafford keeps trying to throw it, doesn't work. The second time, they keep trying to run it, it doesn't work. When it came to the crunch zone of being in the red zone, the defense stepped up all game. They just then, in the second half, carried that over to the rest of the field while the offense went into their usual third quarter slump that they never really got out of until that last drive where we needed to put the game away.
I mean, that touchdown to Sam, like, given that it was on 4th down as well, and they'd messed it up 3 times beforehand, and I said it on Twitter, this is why Dan has been so aggressive for years now, again and again and again and again, trying to get it to 4th down, because there's going to come a day and an age when you get to the playoffs and you've got to convert something like that. And Goff had to wait in the pocket. He couldn't throw that thing right away. He had to stand there under pressure, wait for the play to develop, and then do it. That is what you get from Dan's way of playing football. When the chips are down and it really matters in a high-pressure situation, Dan's prepared them for it, and they look like they're ready to go. So, I mean, that ended up being critical. So, just a point to make there about that. It was great.
Just want to thank Joshua Mercer7 on Twitch for cheering with 100 bits, saying, "End of what? I do not know that acronym of which you speak." I love it. Let's talk about the game in a bit more detail. So the Lions start off on offense, and a huge start with a run right up the middle for David Montgomery for 10 yards. Really set the tone, in my opinion. Amazing catch by Reynolds for 24 yards on a really tight window throw. And then Goff has improved on this so much, and I love it. Fake toss to the left-hand side, flick over and throw almost immediately to the right-hand side to Reynolds to get to the and goal situation. A couple of runs. David Montgomery for the one for a touchdown. PAT's good, Lions up 7-0 on the first possession. LA, we then get him in 3rd and 1 straight away, but Branch has a fairly unnecessary DPI, just kind of runs into his guy. Amazing throw by Stafford to Allen versus cornerback blitz by Sutton. So Sutton coming off his side, and he just replaces the man with the ball, and a sidearm throw around. It was really cool. Nakua then on a wide receiver screen, so much room up in front of him for 21 yards. Then Kirby got an awful penalty for pulling a man off the pile. Just, you gotta know better than that at this stage of the you're in the postseason now, so come on. Rams get 3 tries then from the 6-yard line, all throws, all incomplete, all with good coverage, and almost got picked on the 3rd down after the ball was batted into the air. Poor reaction time, actually, by the coverage guys, because that should have come back. 24-yard field goal ended up being good. Lions lead 7-3. And I'll just stop here. First possession for each team, guys. And Steve, we set the tone early on the ground, but Goff had some amazing throws on that first drive. And then we get out of dodge, holding them in an and goal situation.
Yeah, and I think you were absolutely right that 10-yard run by David Montgomery, it massively set the tone. Like a huge statement straight away that we're going to run at them, and that and that's what we had to do. We couldn't just rely on the passing game, and then all the pressure would be on Goff. We had to spread it around, and Ben Johnson, those first sort of 12 to 15 plays, just almost flawless. But you have to have someone to execute them. And Goff was amazing, tight window throws, great hands by Reynolds on a couple of catches. Everyone looked up for it. Montgomery, Gibbs, making people miss. The Rams tackling was poor, but we were absolutely making people miss. And it was absolutely what we needed to do if we were going to win that game. This was not a game where we could go down 10 points. That we had to kind of keep momentum, and we absolutely did.
Anyone else?
Everyone's stunned. I think everyone's just like, did this happen? Did this happen?
Exactly.
I think it was clinical, right? Where the offense looked so good, and it immediately looked like if the Rams were going to stay in this game, they had to be perfect. And I can't remember who mentioned it earlier, but actually there was a couple of kind of silly mistakes. You mentioned Kirby, etc. But defensive execution, I thought, was actually not that bad on that first drive, and especially in the red zone. The whole Rams offensive scheme is designed to stack receivers, lots of option routes, and it's just very hard unless you've got great communication, obviously great players on the back end to cover that. And I think that first red zone defensive drive was super important for us to obviously get out to a lead, relatively self-explanatory there, but also just to show that they weren't going to be able to work us over that easily in the red zone. And obviously, I think it's an issue with this team playing in space. And we talked about it a little bit on the WhatsApp chat before, that we just needed to make sure we turned 7s into 3s, and it's what we did. And actually, playing in a phone box is probably where this defense is better suited than playing when you've got 80 yards in the middle of the field. So,
yeah, completely. So on the wide receiver screen, it was just drawn up perfectly. Not a lot we could do about that. The play, both sides got their play calling pretty damn spot on for the most part. But the best thing about it was, obviously, we say with the flag, we overcame that adversity. Kirby makes a sort of rash decision, acting in heat of moment. He sees the play on top of Branch, sort of maybe had a bit of a Vietnam War flashback to last week with Harrison Phillips on top of Amon Ra, decides to go and get involved, and obviously gets himself flagged and gets himself benched for a couple of plays to cool down. But reacted well.
Stafford there was definitely something that you could see on the replay that he pulled him off the pile because the guy was on top of Branch, but I think I don't know whether he was it slammed Branch's head down but there was definitely a missed call there, and I was like, oh, here we go. But thankfully it didn't cost us too much.
Exactly, yeah. Eric put it well on Twitter, and he said yesterday, he might have been doing something, but the retaliation always gets the flag. Just let the refs. I know, obviously, we'll come on to it in a bit. The refs didn't have a best game, and that's speaking for both sides. I'm not going to get myself drawn into the arguments like I did yesterday on Twitter. Refs, just let them do what they need to do. This is supposed to be a good ref crew. Let them deal with it. Don't get yourself involved, because otherwise, you get yourself flagged or you get ejected, which is not what you need. Because Kirby, even though he has been our worst safety out of the 3 starters this year, still kind of need him.
I'll do the next couple of series and then come to Ant. Roughing penalty for the against the Rams on the Lions drive by Hampton helps the start. Holding on Ragnall though sets us back, but on first and forever goes straight back to Reynolds over the middle for 33 yards versus zone coverage. Handoff to Gibbs from the 10 out of shotgun goes up the middle for a touchdown. Decker and Jackson with just the best pair of blocks you will ever see. Double team one, then Jackson goes up to the second level to get one, and then Decker goes up to the second level to get another to create the hole. I mean, just a two-man wrecking crew up there, and Gibbs basically walks in from 10 yards untouched. It's a thing of absolute beauty. P80 was good, 14-3 Detroit in a 2-score lead early, but the Rams hit straight back. And it didn't start in the best possible way. Stafford caught the Ford Field gremlin and fell over for a loss of 9. Hutch touched him down for his first sack of the day. Should we say sack with an asterisk, maybe? I don't know. 3rd and 16 as a result, and complete to DeMarcus Robinson for 19 versus Kindle Vildor. And it's not bad coverage as well. This is the thing about these completions is he was in the spot he was meant to be. It's just a great throw and a great catch. So, however, McNeil was bringing the pressure on that play. Stafford's follow through is straight into the helmet, and you can see the gash that was in his hand was really quite bad. And they were trying to stop his hands swelling up all game after. It didn't seem to affect Stafford, but it was the start of a rough day for him physically. That was the end of the first quarter. There were only two and a half drives in the first quarter. It was ridiculous. After that, 3rd and 1 at midfield, Puka Nacua goes for 6. So beats Sutton off the snap on the left-hand side. Weak effort by Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to prevent the touchdown. He just kind of launched himself with reckless abandon, and Puka just kind of walked past him. It was weird, but regardless, they go for 6. P80 is good, and Detroit up 14-10. I will stop there and come to Ant. The roughing penalty certainly helped us, but then, Ragnall's hold, and then Goff just gets all back in one play. We punch it in, and then they get their big touchdown with, Sutton trying to cheat forward on 3rd and short.
I mean, this is what your offense can do when it has Jameson Williams in it. Obviously, they targeted JMO very early in this to get him into the game, and then the Rams have to take on board that he's part of this. So when it comes to Ragnall and he picks his penalty, puts us behind the sticks, we need a big play. What happens? JMO opens up the field for Josh Reynolds to make that play. And there were several instances where they were putting 2 guys on him. They were watching him and not the guys around him, opening him up plays for his teammates. So what happens when you target him and make him a legitimate threat? Another team has to give assistance to deal with his speed, which is just too much for anybody. So that opens it up for Goff to be able to hit Reynolds and for Reynolds to make that play. And that's a really dangerous offense when you're behind the sticks against this team. You can't really afford to run it. You don't want Goff to sit in the pocket too long because that's what they're good at. Donald and all these guys will go and get him. You get that play, you move on, you go straight back to the run. Gibbs then comes alive on this. This is how fearsome our team is. Monty did the driving on the first. Gibbs does the drive on the second. You rotate these guys in and out. They're fresh as anything. While there's a D-line getting absolutely pasted by our front 5 that's getting tired already. And you just keep on. You keep driving. You get the score again. You're just relentless. It just puts all the pressure onto that team to have to keep chasing after you. It was great work by the offense. It was great usage of its personnel. Great use of its calls. I loved everything about it. And again, 2 drives, 2 touchdowns. That is what you want. Then the Rams, like you said, it was annoying. Like the defense was making plays. It was making plays and putting them behind the sticks and then was giving them up again, which is just an absolute pain in the neck. These 3rd and longs, as has been mentioned, are they're an Achilles heel to us. They're going to be a problem while we don't have a true cornerback one on this team. It's something we're just going to have to deal with going forward. But the touchdown was just... It was Jordan Addison again from the other week. I'm just sick of seeing these guys take Cam on and Cam do nothing. Like, they'll beat Cam, they'll go down, the safeties are either not there or they're there not doing their job properly. It was just like rinse and repeat. It was the exact same damn thing. And again, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. This is going to be an Achilles heel in our team going forward, and we've just got to kind of hope we can build around it enough and get enough pressure on the quarterbacks. We did hit Stafford, we made life uncomfortable for him, but yeah, obviously it was going to be a bit of a shootout here, but outside of a couple of bad plays from us, I wasn't too disappointed. It's just those bad plays just really, really do us in.
It's again, we're not in the meeting rooms. It's really hard to know. It's just weird from Sutton, right? If you watch it straight before, he has his hands up, which makes it look like he's not sure on the check anyway. Because obviously the Rams are using a lot of motion and then they buzz another safety down. But he's playing at like 3-4 yards off the line, which is, I mean, maybe if you're playing 2, that's fine, but you're not really setting yourself up for success then if you're playing cover 1, which is what it looks like the call was. He's then playing inside leverage, but he's half turned into the quarterback. So Puka can basically just work around on the outside and he's got to do a full hit zone. The whole thing's just weird, let alone the fact he gets absolutely cooked on that stutter step. But if he did that and he was doing the rest of what you would expect, then you're like, okay, he got beat. It was a nice move. The whole thing was weird. And actually, one of the themes we were talking about again throughout the game was communication on the back end looked pretty shaky. And I get that it's loud, but there was a number of issues. Kirby probably most, but also you saw one with CJ as well. And it's pretty concerning because I don't think it's going to be quiet when D's on the field next week. And this is week 19 of the season. And I get CJ's been out, so maybe a little bit more tolerance for him. But Kirby's been in there every game. And ultimately, they took Tracy out, and Kirby is then the fixture who's been there every game this season, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what the plan was, but I think there were enough instances of bad communication or just weird technique in some ways on the DBs that was almost more concerning than any of it. Some of the Vildor stuff, which we'll come to, like actually a couple of times I thought he was really nicely in phase and a ball was perfect. Like that's going to happen. I've got way less issue with that than some of the other stuff.
Yeah, so I mentioned it on the coverage. It was about with this play because I saw it. CJGJ, and it's much, and it pains me to say it on the, as I said on the live stream as well, pains me to say it. He isn't getting railed by the fan base for gambling like Kirby does. So as much, again, I'm Kirby's biggest fan. His worst trait is the fact that he likes to gamble a lot with his alignments and stuff. He likes to sort of gamble and sort of think I can get a pick here, and sometimes it works out. It works out. You get really good play for him, but it also leads to a lot of negative plays. And obviously, we haven't seen much of CJGJ this season. CD Juice, actually, because he's changed his name, hasn't he? But it seems he does the same thing. He likes to gamble a lot. It led to him leading the league last year in interceptions. This year, it's leading to him not being there because it happened on that play with Cam Sutton. It happened last week in quite a few of the plays where he was supposed to be helping double up Jefferson. He just wasn't there. It's not really getting picked up on. Hopefully, people pick up on it now. Now I've said it. And I think it was either Eric or Jeff Risden tweeted about it as well. He's just not being that consistent leader we need him to be on that back end with the communication and with doing his job right. Iffy, for the most part, for someone who obviously started the season, everyone's sort of written off. He's actually been the most consistent in doing his coverage assignments, which was supposed to be his weakness. He's obviously a great blitz and a good run defender, but obviously he doesn't really have the range to be a good coverage safety. But he's been the best guy at the three in terms of coverage because saw it with that play, CJ gambling, and then obviously Kirby does it as well. It's something that we need to work on in terms of turning these negative plays into net neutrals, kind of like with Vildor. So I know we'll come on to it. I think it was in the third quarter. It was one of the big completions to Puka on a third down. Vildor was right there. It's just a really good ball from Stafford and a really good catch from Puka. Not like you can ask from Vildor. He's actually been, dare I say, our best corner the past couple of weeks.
I actually thought he'd intercepted it. I actually thought that Vildor had intercepted it. I was like, he's got it. And then like it went past his fingertips by such a small margin. I was like, how did he not catch that? And then you see the slow-mo, and it's just an amazing ball by Stafford.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Imagine if we can somehow get that sort of Kildare-Vildore's mentality into a cornerback one's kind of body with the athleticism and that, we'd have the next Sauce Gardner. But alas, Kildare-Vildoре, as good as he is up there, which was what Cam Sutton was supposed to be for us, he just doesn't have the physical stuff to be able to keep up with Puka Nacua or Justin Jefferson or DJ Moore. It's just, as people say, we need a CB1 bad, something hopefully we'll address in the off-season, but unfortunately, it's probably not going to come through free agency because the best guy available is probably Jordan Lewis, who's a CB2. So it might have to be a trade or draft, and they're both risky options.
Enjoying the idea of him being called Kildare-Vildore. Just sounds much better to me. Let's go all the way now to the half. Detroit's third possession. Goff ends up throwing his 10th completion in a row before an incompletion. 3rd and 5, exceptional catch by Amon-Ra St. Brown. Tight coverage, really tight coverage by Akilo Witherspoon. And then a check down to Gibbs, which was way out in front of him. How he caught it, I have no idea. He kind of weaves his way through for 16. Poor tackling by the Rams, but I mean, really good stuff by him. He was difficult to get. 1st down and 10 from the 10.5, and Aaron Donald jumps. So you got 1st down 5, and then so that's from the 6, and we go run to get to 4th and 1, but it's 4th down and 1.5 to goal. And we do this incredible play. So Dan Skipper reports eligible. So you got 6 offensive linemen. Fullback comes in, 2 tight ends come in, all the wide receivers check out. So no, it's what's that in personnel? 20 personnel? No. 20, 30, 22 personnel with 6 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it is. So the goal line set, if I know what my Madden would be that you basically have all your heavies come in and one of the people doesn't have an assigned man-to-man coverage, normally the fullback. And then they split out. So they have 3 wide to the right-hand side with the running back over to the left and the 6 offensive linemen. So it forces all those heavies that have come in for the goal line set. Some of them have got to go in coverage. And of course, one of those tight ends is Sam Laporta, who goes on a little angle route. Fantastic throw by Goff. And the thing is, yeah, you're forcing him to hold it in a goal line situation on 4th down. But Dan Skipper's in the game. So it's not even that risky. It's a fantastically schemed play call, getting your best on their worst and giving Goff time to throw. PAT was good, 21-10. LA's next drive come back with a touchdown themselves, and Nacua just won't go down. I mean, we were arm tackling him and he was just running through it. It was very frustrating. Gain of 20 on the first play. Then CD Juice holding on Tyler Higbee was clear. He complained about it bitterly, but it was obvious. 3rd down and 5, incomplete to Demarcus Robinson. 4th down and 5 from the 44. They go for it. Stafford to cup on a quick out on the near sideline for 6. Was very frustrating. Next play, Stafford to Tutu Atwell. Touchdown for 38 yards. PAT is good. 21-17. That's the play that Steve was just talking about. 4:02 to go. Lions get the ball back. Gibbs running to the far sideline. Hit really late out of bounds. And I mean almost at the second white line out of bounds and not called. I couldn't believe it. Goff then panicked under pressure from Aaron Donald and one other who I didn't name. And he just pitches it backwards, which is just all manners of what the fuck are you doing? Brock Wright managed to get back to recover, but we lost 15. End up getting back from 1st and 25, not for 2nd and 25 to 3rd and 15. Great throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown for 23. 3rd and 5, Goff throws out of the pressure just on 4th and 5. Lions get the Rams to jump, but Decker gets called for a false start instead, despite the fact that he did not move. Decker didn't.
Utter bullshit.
Did not move at all. So the Lions have to end up punting. The Rams take over at their own 5 with a minute to go, and they just run out the clock, and that's a half. Steve talking about bullshit, and 2 calls on that drive then. It's not just missing the jump, but also the Gibbs late hit non-call. But before that, there's the Sam Laporta touchdown, and there's the Tutu Atwell touchdown to talk about in those drives.
I mean, I'll start at the end. I thought it was really pertinent that the Rams ended up just running out the clock in that last minute. I think, and I think this was probably one of McVay's biggest mistakes, and I think he'll probably get a lot of shit for it. But I think he gave us too much respect. I think he was really scared because he's seen us do it. He's seen us, with like 30 seconds and a couple of timeouts, just carve our way up the field against, several opponents this year. And I think he kind of pulled the plug on that drive and that he should have been a bit more aggressive. And I think that was one of the kind of key moments in the game, the fact that they didn't do anything with the time and he was quite happy to let the clock run down. After the Cowboys shenanigans, I was just so pleased that a blatant false start just went completely like unpunished, and we got the penalty, and that didn't end up being a massive talking point because we kind of got away with it. But if we'd have lost because of points on the board after that, that would have been so frustrating. But it'd be interesting to know what you guys think about McVay's tactics there.
I felt the same, but then I did Matt could probably attest. I was literally doing the mental maths. I think the reason he did it is because even if he went and got a field goal there, it makes no difference to the gap if they come and score out of the half. It still would have been a one-score game either way. So he just wanted to get into the half, not risk, as you say, like a fumble or an interception. He just wanted to get in because the chance.
It also shows he's got no confidence in his kicker.
Yeah. Oh, well, of course not. As people who watch the TikToks and the Instagrams and that will know, Ant and Perry Time were both advocating for constantly going for two. Let's not use kickers at all in this game. Obviously, as we'll come to, we had a bit more faith in ours and it paid off. But yeah, I think it was just he didn't have any faith. He didn't want to risk a turnover, and he knew that even if he did go for it, got a field goal out of it, which is probably the most probable outcome if they did go for it. It would make no difference. So for them, he was just like, let's get into the half. Even if we come out and score a touchdown out of the half, it'll still be a one-score game with the field goal. Let's just get into it. And yeah, to say it wasn't a talking point though, I remember because obviously I live on Twitter. The change in people within the first 5 minutes of that happening, to suddenly there was a swift change in the narrative on Twitter after that, because everyone was like, "Oh yes, like how can it be?" Then Football Zebra puts out, "Oh yeah, Decker's hand twitches," and suddenly everyone twitches. Everyone forgets that, and suddenly they're like, and I'm not going to name it, but there's a certain person who did reel me in. They did get me quite good with the bait. And they said, oh, yeah, like Lions fans talking about this and the 2 pointers if with the tripping penalty. Like, again, non-equivalents. Like, it's we do. So they're saying, oh, yeah, Lions fans are moaning all the time as if they haven't got calls from those games as well. It's like, we know the refs are bad. It's just because there's been two non-subjective calls that have gone against us in a month. Of course, we're going to be pissed off and talking about it, because this is stuff that needs to be fixed. Because to bring up the 2 points thing, that's something easily correctable by New York. New York can obviously has access to the footage because the TV network did as soon as it happened. So they should as well just go, okay, you did a fuck up there. Let's sort this out. And the same there. It was clearly a neutral zone infraction. Whatever was going on with Decker, that was his team. I think because I watched it back, it's just him adjusting slightly. That's not a false start. Easy, some could just again correctable, but they just don't do it. And obviously, yes, throughout the game we got some calls as well, as we'll come on to, but it's about the process. It's kind of like VAR over here, and I'm going to bring in our football. Yeah. The fact it takes like 3-4 minutes for offsides to be decided when it's supposed to be clear and obvious, stuff like that. Everywhere.
Stay salty, Ash. Stay salty.
Yeah, I'm going to be salty. I'm always salty because it.
But I mean, one way they could sort it out is they could make the red coaches challenge flags. You can challenge anything with it
within 2 minutes. Yeah, because who was it? I should know this. It's one of the big. Dane Brugler literally said that. Make everything within 2 minutes. The last 2 minutes of the halves challengeable. That'll make it so much better. But as we saw with the DPI, the refs will be so against it that they'll change it completely. So you remember that year where obviously DPI was supposed to be reviewable. They just started calling holding and illegal contacts because that wasn't reviewable. So they were getting away with it. They'll find workarounds. Yeah, I don't know. It's up to the competition committee to decide, not us. But yeah, the fact we're discussing this is one of the few negatives we've got. Says a lot about this game because that play, as I said earlier, with that play goal for Sam Laporta, using the Rams' own stuff against them, using motion and different formations to get an open receiver, really damn good. The two touchdown, yes, very good pass from Stafford. Again, showing the issues of not having the safety coverage there because there was no one behind Vildor for that. And I know, yes, Tutu's their fourth receiver, but this, you're talking about a guy who ran like a 4.3 something at the combine. Why don't you have at least some safety help over the top in case he does do that? So you can try and limit the big play. Instead, he goes for 38 yards. So, second quarter started off so well. Then we sort of let them come back into it a bit. Obviously, with the refs weren't helping with that, the alleged false start. But still, the fact that we went into the half up and at least with some momentum behind us because we stopped them sort of coming out and scoring on us with a minute left on the clock. Fared well going into the third quarter, which is obviously our worst quarter by far.
I mean, third touchdown drive was great. Spreading it round everybody, and it's like what the Texans do. They spread it round everybody, so you don't know where it's coming from. In that alone, you had passes to Reynolds, to Amon-Ra, to Gibbs. You had the eventual touchdown to Laporta. The offense is so varied that the Rams were I don't think they knew where they were going to get hit from. We just seemed to be dissecting them way too easy. And Goff, Goff just looked amazing. I didn't actually, and a lot of people didn't realize until he threw that incompletion. He's he's done a quarter and a half, not a single incompletion. He's been great on the day, and that's what good play calling does. Using all your guys, just showing different looks all the time. Their defense never ever once looked settled. And 3 drives, 3 touchdowns. You can't really ask for more than that. I can't remember off the top of my head the last time we would have done something like that, but it feels like it will have been a really long time ago. And then your defense, it's just frustrating again. You put them in situations where not going at the end touchdown, that's just a really good pass. It's good coverage. Shit happens occasionally, but you are in plenty of third and fourth down situations. You can get off the field. Again, the tackling was weak. Nakua's a monster. Just an absolute monster the kid is. And it was concerning. It was certainly concerning for sure. But given the way the offense was playing, it was nice because we still kept the buffer. And no matter what they were doing, they were still not getting anywhere near us. But there's a lot of stuff that's got to be worked out on defense, especially when they've got a chance to get off the field. They just do not take it enough.
Yeah, Ash, I don't know if you know where it came from. I think I saw earlier that Goff, when he wasn't under pressure, completed 22 of 22 yesterday. So just
next gen stats.
Yeah, just absolute madness. Yeah, not to labour the point, just to piggyback off what you said there, and the 2 plays, the 6-yard out you mentioned from Cup, it's an absolute shit show if you watch it back. From all the 3 safeties, I will say as well, in terms of if you watch, as soon as Cup motions, Branch starts moving across, Iffy starts moving across, and then I think it's Iffy is on the back end. He's like, oh shit, that means I can't. So it's still trying to work back at the snap. CJ doesn't come down, and you see AG just lose his mind on the sideline about this. It's unforgivable. And with the touchdown itself, I think it's really just all Stafford. Stafford's under center and completely checks out the play and the formation when he gets the look he wants. So whilst, it's kind of not ideal having no help over the top there, Stafford saw the look and just completely checked out of it. So it was just a great play more than anything.
Moving into the second half, LA starting with their 5th possession, and Hutchinson gets pressure early. Lions lucky as Stafford missed Cup on a coverage bust, so he's all on his own on the near sideline with no one within about 15 yards of him, which is just what. But Stafford, under pressure from Hutch, has to throw it over his head. What else do we have here? 3rd and 11, and Stafford chucks it up there, one-on-one ball down the field, but Kirby comes and breaks on the ball, actually ends up running into both players. They look for a flag. It's not given. I think it's a good non-call, but you've seen those absolutely get thrown the flag for, but that forces a punt. So the Lions have the ball up for 3rd and 6. A one-step timing throw to Amon St. Brown for 30 yards, who beats his man off the snap. It's an absolutely beautiful throw, probably my favourite of the night. Amon then came back on a slant for 17 yards. Gibbs, though, going east to west on a 4-yard tackle for a loss by Roseboom, and then got sacked by Jones, beat David Montgomery in pass protection, all ends up. At the 40-yard line, Goff checks down to Sam Laporta, and behind the line of scrimmage, somehow ends up kind of shimming around to get 5 yards. I'm pretty sure 2 of them he actually got while out of bounds, but he didn't actually touch himself down. So that ends up making it a 54-yard attempt by Badgley, who absolutely drills it. It's a fantastic kick by, a team that has... It'd be really interesting to see, Ash, while you're here, how many kicks we've attempted at 50 yards plus this season.
Right.
And I'll continue on. So the Lions lead 24-17 after that field goal. LA come back and play action running back screen to Rivers for 17. And I talked ad nauseum about the play action screen game that they had going. And it was just a great example of what they can do really, really well. Lots of missed arm tackles again on Allen. Gets 22 to the 11-yard line. Stafford on a bootleg had to throw it away. Nakua then ran a sweep with Vildor and JRM getting a tackle for a loss. It was a fantastic play on defense in the red zone for the Lions. Then on 3rd and 12, pressure on Stafford forces a check down. 27-yard field goal was good. Detroit up 24-20, and Stafford goes into the blue tent. So Stafford gets hit on that play. He gets trampled on, and he hits the turf, and he's out. Like, he's definitely lost consciousness on the field and goes into the blue tent and somehow comes back into the game. But I am absolutely staggered, having watched it back, that he actually comes back in at all. I think it's shocking, to be honest. I'll stop there, and then maybe I'll do one more possession for the Lions. They went 3 and out. 3rd and 6, Goff gets hit by the turf monster as well. Tripped on Decker. Massive punt by Fox, so flips the field. Let's come to Ant. So we had the 54-yard field goal by Badgley set up by Sam Laporta. Fantastic heads-up play by him. We had a non-call for DPI against Kirby in the drive before where we forced a punt. And then the Stafford play where he gets hit, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your thinking. What did you make of that passage of play?
Yeah, kind of a little bit of the old story about the third quarter jitters again. Offense looked really good to start off with, and then just a few bad plays put you behind the sticks, and you're like, here we go. Maybe I was semi-surprised he decided to kick the field goal, but again, this is kind of where Dan's really gotten good with his game management. He's still aggressive a lot of the time, but I think he does find the windows where there is pause to maybe just go for some points. And, fair play to Badgley. 54 yards. It's a really good field goal. He's had some misses, but, so well done. You've done your job. That makes things a little bit more easier, maybe doing it forward. Again, we're playing at Ford Field next week, so kicking indoors is going to be a big factor with it, which will help. That'll help his confidence a lot. And then that next drive was kind of really where I did have a lot of faith in the defense then, because you make that stop in the red zone. And again, they were moving, and you're like, oh God, here we go. This is going to be the first time in the game we'll be behind. And if we're playing from behind, that's when we'll start making mistakes. And the team came together really well. Like, say, the screen when Nakua got it and Vildor's on him like a rash. JRM is in there like a rash to stop him. They rallied to the ball really well to stop any yards after, and just to hold them to a field goal. You've used up a good near half of the quarter. The scoreline's still the same in terms of distance between you. That's a win in your book there. And I like the aggression they were showing towards Stafford. It's a big hit. It was a hard hit, but that's what you got to do with quarterbacks. You got to rattle them up a bit. You got to go after them, and the D-line did a good job in that regard. So I found it promising the way that they were able to stand up. How many times have we seen Staff convert from in the red zone with just some form of ingenious, inventive play that fools the hell out of everybody? They didn't they held up really, really well. It was really, really good to see.
And one thing on the non-DPI call, that was when the Rams had to take a timeout. So it was that play which was the first timeout forced by the crowd. MVPs, the lot of you. So obviously a huge part in the game, as it turned out to be. With the Stafford thing, I mean, we were talking about it in the Discord chat live. It reminded me of, there was a rugby player called George North, who most Brits will know, but others won't. And he got completely sparked in a game, and he's basically just face down in the ground eating grass. And he came straight back on and played straight away. And that was a little bit of a watershed moment then, to be like, yeah, that can't happen. Like, and from having seen some of the farcical fines that have gone out this year for head impact, and there should absolutely, I think they've taken a step forward in a good way this year, but some of them have been ridiculous in terms of what they fine people for. You can't do that and then have an independent neuro. So the guy on the field who did or off the field in the blue tent who did the assessment, fair enough. I don't think there's any kind of conspiracy theory there. I'm not saying that. But if you've got someone who's sitting watching the footage and then calling people off, as they did for Puka the very next play, I don't see how you can allow that to happen. There's no way. You can completely see his eyes roll back for an extended period. He smacks his head on the ground. I just don't think you can do a 30-second torch in the eye impact assessment and be like, yeah, it looks great. It's a really bad look, I think.
His mouth just hangs open as well. That's the thing that gets me.
Really? You can't make an argument there that that's legit for him then to go out and play. So obviously, like, for the good of not for the good of the game, that's not what I mean. For the competitive game that we had, it was great he stayed in. But for long-term health, like, that just can't happen. I don't care if it's a playoff game or it's week 1 and it's the Panthers versus the Bears and literally no one gives a single shit about it. Like, it can't happen.
Yeah, especially after Tua last year, like the controversy they had over that, like the Dolphins did. You'd think, but yeah, it's I think it was the Detroit Lions podcast listened to. It's basically the league will probably have a bit more leniency over a quarterback and the wide receiver because, as you say, it keeps competitiveness of the game up, which is completely the wrong attitude to have. Should be player safety first, but obviously Puka going out for concussion is a lot less impactful on the overall script of the game than Stafford is, because Wentz isn't Stafford. Obviously, when it happened, me and Matt were a bit like, if Wentz comes in and he runs all over us here, we're going to be so upset. But obviously, it didn't happen. But it's player safety. Player safety should come first. Just say you've seen it a lot. Like, as much as I love on TikTok, one of my favorite accounts is just somebody that just keeps putting clips of hard hits over and over, and I just keep reposting it. Same time, if people are getting done like that, you've got to think of player safety, especially with Stafford. Like, Matt, the guy's had so many injuries. I know Kelly's come out today and said, "Oh yeah, Matt, John will be back next year, and we wish Detroit would go all the way." It's a bit of a platitude, that last bit. Don't really care, Kelly. He's got to think about it because he's got 3 kids who sort of sideline. He needs to, at least, if the docs aren't doing it, he needs to sort of say himself, I need to stay out this game for a bit just to make sure I'm okay, because I want to be cognizant in 10, 15 years when my kids are in college. I want to be there for them.
Well, I mean, look at what they did with Patrick Mahomes the other day when his helmet got shattered, and they allowed him to change it without taking a timeout or nothing. You're meant to go off and get your equipment checked because he was visibly struggling with his backup helmet. Like, if he takes a hit on that play, he comes back in and his helmet's messed up and it messes him up, that's a big deal. But like you say, because they seem to be giving him lenience, like, oh no, just toodaloo, off you go. No timeout, no nothing. You don't need to. You got to be more serious with it.
I mean, you don't want to hit on a damaged helmet.
Well played.
Oh,
and just
can we end the show now?
Wow, we can tell who's from north of the border here, can't we? Animal.
I mean, just going back to Stafford. I know we said we wouldn't talk about Stafford, but I'm just going to talk about Stafford for 30 seconds. Like, we all loved him as a player because of his mentality and playing tough, and everyone goes back to the Browns game and just numerous occasions when Stafford's played injured. But like on that one particular play, like he's already got a massive gash across his knuckles, and you can see blood oozing out. And when you get a cut that big, it inevitably kind of swells up. So he's obviously going to be like in pain. And then, you've then got, he takes a triple hit on that play because Hutch puts him down and bounces his head off the turf. Then I think Aleem runs into him, but I think he kind of catches him with his thigh on like the sort of head jaw area. And then someone else comes in and like basically you just see like someone's cleats go down the side of his ribs.
Hutch again. It was Hutch
again, yeah. And I mean, like, if Stafford had a Lions uniform on, I'd be just like, oh my God. Like, you don't want to see him take that kind of punishment. And yeah, he was in the tent, but this is why you need a solid backup quarterback, because you need to be able, if you treat your players properly, you need to take them off, not just for like a play, but for like 5 minutes to kind of like really check them out and make sure, take them out of a series and really give them like a thorough check and make sure they've recovered. But the Rams didn't do that, and Stafford's the kind of guy that's just going to say, get me back on the field, but that's not necessarily the right decision. And as someone now, like, not having Stafford on my team, as a neutral, I'd be like, oh my God, like this guy needs to like take 5 minutes.
Just want to say welcome to Southie, by the way, who's a newcomer to the sport from Bradford, who's watching us. So hello to you. Hope you enjoy the show. Sorry, Ash.
Yeah. I was about to have next two things. One, well, talking about backup quarterbacks with the overthrown cup, what a catch Teddy made and the celebration afterwards. I find that funny when he just caught the overthrow cup. He just goes like that and does like the first down celebration on the sideline. And then to answer Matt's question earlier about the field goals, we're now 2 of 3. So obviously Badgley got one last night from 54, and then Patterson made one. Missed one against Tampa from 50 plus, and then made one a couple of weeks later against Las Vegas. So maybe it's about playing inside the domes. Maybe when we're in stores, we can actually make those 50 pluses, and when we're outside, we can't. Something to bear in mind for the rest of the postseason. But yeah, third quarter is going to third quarter is all I'm going to say.
Going to the end of the game now, and LA have their 7th series down 24-20. Kyron up the middle, 15. Really great patience and blocking up front to get those yards. On a 3rd and 8, Nakua with another screen, this time to the near sideline. Blockers get out in front. He gets through one weak tackle by Romeo, ends up getting 9. Stafford then with a big play action pass to Nakua for 22 yards down to our 13. And then on 3rd and 8, great coverage by CD Juice on Cooper Cup. Ball, I think, is floating out of bounds anyway, but maybe the one good rep I saw from CD Juice most of the day. Detroit then, after the field goal to make it a 1-point game from 29 yards, Detroit take over with 8 minutes to go, and we go 3 and out, which is disaster at this point in time, saying, can we bleed 8 minutes? We can bleed 8 minutes. But Goff, under pressure from the first play, went to throw and just threw it in the at the feet of the running back. And then on 3rd and 4, he's under pressure again, targets Reynolds but throws high over his head. Punt again was absolutely huge and almost muffed the kick catch on the LA side. And we were right there to recover it if he did. So that was almost a huge play in itself. So 7:18 to go. LA have their final possession. Nakua with a 36-yard catch in man coverage versus Kirby Joseph. So Nakua comes all the way from the left-hand side to the right. You can see the safety follow him all the way, and then he comes all the way back to where he started during the rep on a crossing route, and Kirby just doesn't have the pace to match up with him. It's just a mismatch, which is really annoying. Rivers then get a 15-yard gain down to the Detroit 40. Remember, at this point, they're only 1 point down, so if you get anywhere to the 35 or so, it's a 52-yard attempt, so they're 5 yards away from that. Amazing hit, and we can debate this hit. Amazing hit on Higbee by Kirby to force an incompletion, which may have ended up winning the game. And that is what we're talking about right now. Picture perfect, how you teach them tackle on a tight end going up for the ball. That forces The Staff throws to Cooper Cup to the 34-yard line. That's 3rd and 4. Hutch gives them pressure. He's held. Throw to Rivers, the running back. Loss of 2. Forces a 4th and 6. It would be a 53-yard attempt from this point. And Dan decides to accept the hold. Now, I'm looking back at what the Rams have done from 50 plus. And Brett Mayer this season is 3 of 7 from 50 plus, as long as 54, and it would have been a 53-yard attempt. So you play those odds, I guess. But Dan decided not to play those odds and to accept the 10 yards, so it makes it 3rd and 14 and takes them out of field goal range. And we know how the Lions have been on 3rd and long in this game. But they do get the stop. Stafford under big pressure. Alex Anzalone quite lucky to get away with not being flagged for a defenseless receiver on Puka Nacua, because he absolutely hammers him and then throws his hands up saying it wasn't me. But you know, that could end the game in the Rams' favour if that's called. So it all turns on the referee's flag. So they end up having to punt in the 99.5 percentile most cowardly punt of the season on 4th and 14, apparently. And then the Lions, with 4:07 to go, but the Rams with only 1 timeout, need 3 first downs from this position, or 2 first downs from this position, and a lovely rep by David Montgomery. So 2nd down and 9 after a run up the middle for 1. And we're in shotgun. We actually end up throwing, but it's just a quick throw to Monty in the flat. And he just takes it forward, skips past 1, gets the first down. That bleeds the clock to the 2-minute warning. 1 more first down gets it. And we throw again to Amon-Ra St. Brown for the first down, and that's the ball game. A lot to kind of cover there with just 3 points, boys. But let's come to Tom first here. We've just talked about before Stafford going to the blue tent. After that, you've got the Rams field goal where they throw to the end zone again, and we have some good coverage. We go 3 and out. Then we have the flag. Do you take it? Do you not? Get away with a little something with Anzalone. And then we bleed the clock with 4 minutes to go, which we've been great at all season long.
And we'll come to the final drive at the end. The offense just looked a bit nervous on those 6th and 7th drives. It looked like we're playing slightly within ourselves. Everything was a little conservative. Again, perfect opportunity to go the acronym, which won't be named. But ultimately, I thought the defense did a great job. And just to quickly, I think everyone has an opinion on the Kirby play. The way the rules are set up now, that's what you've got to do. I think it's so easy to forget when you watch everything in slow motion that when you're coming down on a ball at full speed, and it can be a guy who's 5'8", a guy who's 6'7", you've got all kinds of different body types. You don't know if that ball's going to go low and he's going to duck into it, and you're going to, if you go for the ribs, suddenly you're hitting him in the head. If he reaches up high and you're going low, you can go through the knee. So I'm sure they'll do something about it in the offseason. The whole Kirby's a dirty player thing is madness to me. But yeah, just horrible to watch for Higbee. Obviously, as soon as you see it, it's pretty nasty. That being said, when it came to the hold, like bring the wheelbarrow out for Campbell again, I would absolutely have declined it. And the fact he didn't, just, I mean, ultimately it won us the game, right? So I have no idea what the numbers then came out and said he should or shouldn't have done. But I think it's one thing to just, whether it was I assume it was a marginal call either way, but it's basically saying I'm backing my guys to get it done. And the defense has shown many times they can't necessarily get it done, but to keep having Campbell back them up again and again at some stage has got to give you a level of confidence with it. So yeah, amazing. And then I don't know about all of you, but it got to a point where just before the 2-minute warning, I was like, wait, so we just need 1 first down now? Like, for some reason, I was there thinking we needed 2. It didn't. I think I was so caught up in almost the anxiety of watching the game and hoping it doesn't go to shit that it was just one of those, oh, okay, so we have effectively 3 downs to get a first down and the game is over. And obviously we go to Amon-Ra straight away, and that's that. And it was just a super surreal moment for me personally. I don't know about you guys, but when that happened, it was, is that it? Where's the spoiler? Where's someone going to jump out and say that there was a flag for something? Just insane.
I was waiting for Kobe Turner to try the interception on like oh no, it was a spike, wasn't it? You can't intercept a kneel down.
Yeah.
But like just some sort of trickery there.
It's akin to like those last few drives. It felt akin to like a boxing match that was in the last round, and the two fighters are just they can't like protect themselves anymore. They're just there trying to throw hits at one another because literally both teams have unloaded.
Was it
everything
it's
they
another
have
Rocky reference?
on one another.
It's Rocky and
It is.
yeah, and they're both just like
It is at the
arms
end.
down here, but they're like nah.
Yeah, because they've thrown everything they can at one another, and you get to the end, and like the Lions are a little tentative, the Rams are starting to get a bit desperate, and they'll throw a punch at us when they stop the defense, when they stop our offense, and they go 3 and out. We'll throw a punch back when they get a few plays, and we're able to repel them. And it comes down to the end where that Kirby hit's almost symbolic, as in that's the last punch thrown where we hit them and they can't hit us back, and it's the last punch of the fight. And they go down because we're able to run it out because they just couldn't defend it after that. I'd say maybe we got a little lucky at the end, but I'm sorry, after all the calls and millions of injustices we've had against us, that in the grand scheme of things is very low. It's one that can be given, it's one that might not be given. Who cares? Enough aren't given for that to be absolutely fine. And then that last drive, again, we're just able to see it out. It's the testament to this team. So many times they've not been able to do that, and yet this team's so confident, it's so good. Those last 4 minutes, we shouldn't have worried at all, really, because they just moved it well. They kept getting good yardage in favorable situations, and bang, just give it to your best player. And, it's indicative of a team who knows the head coach believes in them. Because it's like that holding call. As Tom says, a lot of people wouldn't have gone for that because they would have tried to play it safe and just get to the down. But that's Campbell saying to his team, look, this is one more down for you to make a stop, and this is going to help us win the game. And that's just putting everything on your team in terms of, I trust you. There are too many coaches out there who don't trust their teams, and whether it's the offense in the red zone, whether it's the defense, even after they've been getting shredded all day by staff, he's like, no, I still trust you to go out there and make this one play to keep them out there so they can't kick a field goal and we get the ball back. And the team responds to that. And I think it's just this great thing. Campbell doesn't play analytics. He plays trust to his team. He bases situations on how much he trusts his team, not on the analytics. And it seems to work. And the team feed off it. The last drive is great. And it kind of made me tear up that the last throw was to Amon-Ra. Because again, you go back 2 years to when we played the Vikings, and we said when Amon-Ra got that touchdown against them, that's where everything changed for this franchise. Like, that was the beginning there. It was Amon-Ra who started this thing off. 2 years later, in the playoffs, this is where this particular chapter of the story ends, with Amon-Ra getting the first down that gets us our first playoff win. And it's just been this big monumental story that starts and ends with him, and then afterwards it's just a blubbering mess. I'm not gonna lie. It was like, I think I saw Dan nearly crying. I'm just like, yeah, that's it. Dan cries, I cry. I'm done. I can't help it. But yeah, this team is just something different, man. It found a way under the hardest of circumstances to win, and I always truly believed they could. And we are now the most dangerous team in the NFL because all our mental barriers are gone. And as Tom said earlier, we're playing with house money. We got nothing to lose, and we can kick anybody's ass on the day. And this performance just sort of personified that for me. Offense did when it needed to. Defense did when it needed to. Special teams did when it needed to. And then when it all came down to the end, they ground it out. And it was wonderful.
Yeah, like I would have declined it. And that's why I was so stressed, because Matt literally testing people that are watching. I was literally leaning back in the chair like, oh God, because I could feel that was the game. And it was coming down to my least favorite situation of either a 3rd and long. But I could just feel that was the right call, and it was going to come down. The game was going to come down to that, and thankfully, it did. And again, it's that aggression, and it's the trust in the defense, because we've seen it time and time again. First couple of years, we've got into these situations. So the one that sticks out is the Bills last year, where we had that chance to convert a 3rd down, and if we did, we would have got a field goal, and probably won that game. Instead, we don't get it. We have to punt away. They drive down and win the game. Dan has always shown this thing where he just shows trust in the coaches, shows trust in the players until it gets to a point where that trust runs out. Kicking situation the past couple of years is a good example of that. Keeps trust, and this is why, because again, we got to crunch, and quite rightly pointed out the fourth down stuff earlier with the Laporta touchdown. It's all preparation for times like this where you're in crunch time and you need to do these kind of things, and you convert. And it was the exact same plays, and says that Amon Ross scored on to get our first win of this regime. An option route, obviously, Vikings one. He gets a bit wider, sits down, gets it. This one, he literally runs it, sits down, gets the ball, falls backwards. That's ball game. We can then nail the ball out. It was just, playing for house money now. Whatever happens next week, take it on the chin. If we win, and we have to go to San Francisco, so be it. If we win and the Packers somehow win, and they have to come here again, we can avenge Thanksgiving. Either way, it's house money if we win. And if we don't, well, win that playoff game, that monkey's off our back next year. Obviously, it's just the aim is to at least get to the division and win that, and then get to the championship game. It's just constantly building up over time.
I think so. Tom, you mentioned about like the 2-minute warning and first down wins the game. We both did not realise, me and Ash on the coverage, that a first down won the game at that point. So we were calling the throw to Amon-Ra, and then it hit me, and all I said was like, I sat back and I didn't say a thing, and then it just kept repeating, the Lions have won a playoff game. And then like a few seconds later, and I say it again, because it's not real. It's just not real. And then head and hands sort of like, what the hell has just happened? I don't know about your overwhelming reactions and feelings and how you've been over the last day or so, just kind of letting it sink in, because you got a division win last week. I mean, this show is our recap of the year show. This is our season awards, player, team MVP. Oh, we've had a great regular season. It was really nice to finish strong in a losing season sort of time of the year. But we're still alive. It's just ridiculous.
Like at this point in the game, I was actually still like about 2 plays behind, because I think it was David Montgomery got a first down, and he really made someone miss. I can't remember who the defender was, but he absolutely, like, it was going to go for like 3 or 4 yards, and he made someone miss, and he got the first down. And I remember just thinking like, oh wow, this could be so important. Like, Montgomery's amazing. And then I kind of realised that like we were just so close. And then when he threw to St. Brown, as Ant said, like it had to be St. Brown. Like, he's the guy that just symbolises like the resurgence. And think back to that clip. A few people have played it today of Sheila in the draft room, and she's like, "But did we get a wide receiver?" And then someone's like, "Oh, but there's that kid from USC who's still there." And like, we could have so easily missed on St. Brown, but he's just been to get the rebuild going. We had to have some draft hits. We've had too many draft misses, and St. Brown just symbolises like good drafting and what it can do to the franchise. And for him to catch that ball, amazing. But yeah, props to Monty as well, because that was a big play by Monty.
It was on Russ Yeast.
Yeah.
I only remember Yeast is a funny surname.
He cooked Yeast.
He literally sent him into the shadow realm with that juke on that run. It was brilliant.
I was waiting all day to make that joke, and I never heard Rush Yeast's name, so I wasn't able to. I was very disappointed.
There are many other jokes in there, but I can't bring myself to say them. Let's talk some game themes. The first and most prevalent of all is the Ford Field crowd. Caused 2 timeouts in the first half, which ended up maybe not winning the game, because I think even in that situation right there, I have confidence that we can ice it. But they made it a heck of a lot easier for us. The first half, they were clearly struggling with it, but they managed to get some plays off. They got 1 play off with no seconds on the play clock, but I think it was legitimately an okay play just within time. But in the second half, they were kind of really struggling against it. The crowd didn't lose their enthusiasm.
I mean, it was very like neck, hair on the end of your neck worthy when I heard the entire crowd singing "Lose Yourself." It's like, oh my God, that's just so fucking amazing. That is like that's 30 years in the waiting for them. And they said, what were the decibel levels? What, 115 to 120 all night? Like, it didn't let up at all. It's like, Jesus Christ, he couldn't hear himself think, I reckon. You could see it did disrupt them. And those 2 timeouts in the end, that's why when you get to the 2-minute warning at the end, everyone's like, it's not over yet because they've got 3 timeouts, so we've got to waste them yet. You kind of forget, and you're like, oh, actually, no, they don't. They've only got 1, so 3 downs is nearly 2 minutes. So there you go. Crowd was amazing, and I'm just like, hopefully it's going to be like that next week. It's just great to see all like the legends where everybody's bought back in here now. Like, you've got Glover Quinn there, you've got Calvin, you've got Eminem, you've got everybody associated with Detroit possible who went to that. And it's just like, yeah, City's just one big united unit now. And it's going to be very difficult to come in there and beat them all.
Yeah, well, I said on the coverage, the person I feel most sorry for is Peo time, because obviously he got asked on our preview, will McVay have all his time out going into the fourth quarter, and he didn't. I just felt like so bad for him. And then obviously my prediction that actually Dan won't either because of the challenge flag, and it could have happened, but it didn't. So,
But thrown in the Super Bowl. It's going to be thrown in the Super Bowl. I told you that.
He's going to have.
We're only 2 wins away. 2 more little wins, and we're in the Super Bowl.
Oh shit!
Yeah, team rankings have us at 23% to make the Super Bowl now.
Aren't we 62% to make the championship game?
Yes.
Like, that's
we have
the odds are more there than they're not right now.
According to the DVOA website, we have the 3rd best odds of winning the Super Bowl after the Ravens and San Francisco. Take that as you will. Dan's going to the podium, so I'll mute myself for a minute.
Thank you to Greg Mills for subscribing on YouTube, by the way. Sorry.
I mean, we're the highest seed left, aren't we, after those 2?
Yes.
Two's gone in the north. Oh, 2's not gone in the west yet. Who's 2 in the west? Bills.
Bills.
So if the Bills go, one of the highest ranked teams left. There is 10 teams left now in this, and we're one of them. Like, this is big. This is getting serious now. We're down into single-digit teams left in this, y'all.
So a game of 2 halves for the Lions. Offense, I mentioned it earlier. Offense was lit in the first half, but kind of fell away, and then the defense kind of came alive to compensate. I mean, I don't really know what it was, but the defense seemed to come up and make plays when it counted. We talked about bend, don't break before, but I was just looking through when I was rewatching the game and looking through at my drive summary and looking at that second half. LA's first possession, 3rd and 11, Kirby could have picked it, non-call DPI, but they end up punting. Their next possession, Nakua had a sweep, which Vildor and JRM cleaned up for a 3rd and 12, and then we put pressure on Stafford, he had to check it down, and they couldn't convert. The next possession, 3rd and 8, they throw into the end zone, but CD Juice on cut, great coverage. Next possession, we had Kirby on the hit on Higbee, we had Hutch pressuring, which forced the hold, and then we had Stafford throwing to Puka, but couldn't catch it because we had him double covered. It felt like no matter how many yards we were giving up in the second half, that when it came to the money downs, the defense had the answers.
It was almost what was previously talked about in the Patricia era of the kind of bend, don't break approach, but all we would do is break immediately and then roll over. It was what bend, don't break is actually meant to be, which is, you're going to give up some plays and you're going to give up some yards. Try and stop the big plays, which ultimately we did do in the second half, and try and get off the field. And we did. I think a lot of credit, obviously we'll come on to talk about individuals and things, but a lot of credit needs to go across that entire room, really, because yes, I know DBs didn't go exactly how we wanted it to go, but actually there was a lot of really solid performances in there rather than 2 guys having the game of their lives and everyone else making lots of mistakes. So actually I thought it was a pretty solid defensive team effort.
I mean, dare I say it, but the Rams are as good as our offense is. I think they're a little one-dimensional in how they went about it. They were just ripping off big plays. Like, Puka made big plays. When you're at your own 20 and you're 30 and you're throwing receiver screens, you're making big plays. But when it gets to the red zone, when that intermediate game, that what you need to be able to really break a team open in a situation like that, they didn't have. They couldn't run the ball on us, really. Kyron had a few good runs, but again, when it came to the red zone, they can't run it. No touchdowns there for them. So when you're unable to run it and you don't have the field to make big plays, they almost kind of ran out of ideas as to what to do. They tried motion out wide that you kept getting blown up. They tried to run it, they couldn't do it. And then Staff would take hits when he had to wait to try and find a receiver. So I kind of just felt like with us, we can hit every area of the field, short, intermediate, long, and we were doing it in this game, which just made us a little bit more efficient. But them, I just felt they didn't have enough dimensions to beat us, especially in the red zone where it matters.
When Tom said bend not break, it's just sent me into a rabbit hole of thinking about players like Mike Ford and Snacks and Jamie Collins on our defense. It's just like
the dagger time generation.
Just like did that really happen? Like, did we really have to deal with that?
Who had Trey Flowers on their bingo card for today's podcast?
Oh,
highlight.
Hey,
yes, Tom.
He's got a podcast highlight now. There we go. There's one.
Ka-ching. Let's move on to cigars and subpars, where we highlight some good and bad performances across the board. And I'm going to come to Ash last because he's transcribing Dan's press conference at the moment for us, so we can talk about that in a minute as well. I'm going to come round in the clockwise order I see it on my screen. So, Steve, I'm coming to you first. Who do you want to shout out?
I'm just going to shout out the money badger, Michael Badgley, because this is a guy that has had a checkered history on the team, and he's lost a kicking battle and then won a kicking battle during the last sort of few weeks. But to come on with that amount of pressure and kick a 54-yard field goal, like absolute clutch. The thing with kickers is you don't need them until you need them, and he's just come on and probably won the game for us. Like, I know there was, everyone's got several other contributors that made, lots of huge plays, but just that one play in its entirety, that's 3 points. That's the game. So well done, Michael Badgley.
And
cigars. So the big stogie today goes to Dan, because this game was a culmination, I believe. This is 3 years worth of his coaching, which has got us to this situation. As we've already mentioned, the fourth down pressure conversions, to be able to get his offense in a situation where they can convert that in like the highest pressure situations. They were able to do that. The defense, trusting them to go out and make a stop, even though they've been struggling, and to still put his faith in them, to put faith in Badgley to go from 54 and say, look, I'm going to give this to you here. Like when he said during Hard Knocks, trust me, I want to put you in the best situation to go out there and win games. And this was a team that was drilled perfectly for the situation that it was in. And it just felt like a culmination of all the work and effort he's put into getting this team ready. And it paid off with the first playoff win there. This win doesn't happen without Dan. So he gets it for this. No one more pivotal to this team than the guy who leads it.
Tom?
So I was thinking about this and I started writing down some names of different players, and actually it struck me there's one obvious cigar and then 3 other quick cigars I'll mention. And the main one is for Sheila Ford Hamp, because again, a season and a half ago, people were calling for Dan Campbell's job. You go back 3 seasons and Dan Campbell was pretty low down the list of people I really wanted to bring in from a fan standpoint.
He wasn't even the number one Campbell on the list.
Yeah, true. Brad Holmes as well. I was like, I don't really know a huge amount about this guy, but he wasn't as popular as some of the other candidates. And they nailed it. And by they, I mean, I know Rod Wood isn't the most popular guy in the Detroit organization, but him, Chris Spielman, Mike Disner, between that group of 4 people, they brought something which we've been waiting 31 years for. And I get the credit should absolutely go to the players and the coaches after yesterday, but like absolute shout out to Sheila Fordham for running this the whole way from the beginning and getting the right people in, but coming out, making a statement and sticking with them a season and a half in, and look what's happened in the season and a half since. So yeah, just amazing.
Ash, are you good to come back in and give a pick?
Yeah, Dan's just talking about the coordinators, and that's I can jump in. Germ, the dude balled out on special teams, and the dude balled out on defense. We're talking an elite 90+ grade in run defense and overall defense. Like, epitomizes kind of what the franchise is about. Obviously, he was here for the first year. Went to we let him go because he was hoping to get a starting job. Goes to Houston, gets the contract. It doesn't work out for him. He comes back home metaphorically and just balls out. Like, the dude has gone from special teams ace, like all pro special teams ace, to really carving out a role on defense, in run defense and coverage. So he's the cigar for me this week, which is surprising because usually it's Josh Pascal, but Germ just deserves the love.
Yeah, he got his 97.5 grades. I think his run defense grade was so high because he got the tackle for a loss on the Nakua sweep, but also he forced the fumble on that play as well. So put that all together along with a couple of good coverage plays. He was absolutely phenomenal. My guy's Josh Reynolds. Just to pick someone who played in the game as opposed to the front office, but I know he only got 5 yards in the quarters not called the first quarter. But in the first quarter is where we scored the majority of our points and won the game. And he just came up trumps. I don't really know why we went away from what he was doing. I don't know whether he was getting more attention and we were just spreading it out elsewhere. But he seemed uncoverable and just wicked hands. I mean, some of those balls were not thrown perfectly by Jared Goff, or they were thrown in the place only where the defenders couldn't get to it, but it forced him to make a really good catch, and he did the majority of the time. A couple of balls later on were near him, but weren't really catchable. Quite simply, in a year where he's fighting for a new contract, where people are weighing up whether to pay him or not, against the team that dumped him because they had the same decision and they went against him, he stood up and was counted for this team. Anyone want to have a second one? Sorry.
I was about to say, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, have we given Jared Goff enough props for his performance? Because I think he threw for only 270 yards, but just never put the ball in danger. Other than that one reversed, that was a...
I've made that play on Madden before. You press all the buttons at once because you're panicking, and it's the one that pitches it behind you.
Yeah, but I mean, like he made so many like absolute dart-like throws. And you said like Josh Reynolds, his hands had to be good because Goff was firing it into like really tight windows and just looked super cool. He took some hits, he got some pressure in his face, but still made the throw. And he just set an example. I also think David Montgomery, from that first 10-yard first down on the first run to like making the big play at the end as well, was a tone setter. So those two get a mini cigarello from me.
And then with Monty's interview afterwards, where he just refuses to smile because he's like, "No, not done yet. I'm not happy." It's just like, "Yeah, go on, Dad. This is what we want to see. You're not going to rest on this. Like, they didn't rest on an NFC North. It wasn't in North. Playoff wins not in North. Like, they're going to go through to the end." I would say, well, apparently we're going after all the owners and that today now, but Brad Holmes as well. I worry what's going to happen to Brad if we win a Super Bowl. Like, his reaction where he's spontaneously combusting in a lift is now one of my new favorite clips of all time. he's just in the back of this lift, and you just see him going, "Yeah!"
And you can see everyone around him going, like, he always does this. Like the faces of everyone are just like,
it's just like it's that member of the family at a party who just like everyone's like, "Oh God, he's here again," but in like the best way possible. That he just doesn't care, does he? Like,
I saw one caption to that picture with one caption. It just said, "Spielman wishes he'd taken the next elevator."
Yeah.
We need to do like a compilation of Brad's reactions after games because it takes me back to the first game at Kansas City where he's running up and down the sidelines, high-fiving people like just going crazy and then running off just like, yeah. And then he's at the end of the season, he's doing it in a lift. It'd be like, where's Brad going mental today? Oh, he's in a lift. Like, where's Brad? And where's his crazy celebrations? But, I just love the man. So I love him and Dan so much. It's unreal at this point.
Oh,
Like,
I'd love
they
it
deserve it. But
if we could make
win a
it part of the soundboard where you get asked a question that has like the most trivial present or gift or benefit ever, and then that's the reaction to it every time.
Yeah, just Brad Holmes yelling in an elevator. That'd be amazing. But I think just overall, you've got to just give props. Every single player on this team like deserves a mini cigar. Like just for what they've done this year, all collectively. Maybe not in this game, but throughout the season to go from this year and everyone going, oh, they're just frauds. They had a 9-win season last year, and all of a sudden, yeah, they're going to be nothing. It's like, no, they're legit, they're real, and every single one of them deserves a cigar. And I'll give one last one to the opposition because screw it, Puka's amazing. He's going to get a cigar because, he's going to make me look really good in a few years.
He's making it look really good now. He's legitimately maybe a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL at the moment.
He's crazy. Like, you can't tackle the dude. It feels like you need 3 guys to bring him down, and even then you'll still get 3 or 4 yards on you before you bring him down. It's like, we might have to try using tranquilizer darts next time when they come next year. Just been like...
Sorry, did you say we needed to sign Drew Tranquil? Is that what I heard?
No, I said we need to use tranquilizer darts. That is what we're going to use to bring him down. Because I think that's all that can stop him at this point.
All right. Any subpars anyone wants to talk about?
The refs.
Yeah.
For both teams, sucked.
Yeah.
And Vikings fans, they get one as well. They're just proven to be very bitter, very salty little whiny so-and-sos after this.
It's weird, isn't it? Like I would have expected it from maybe Bears fans or something like that, but yeah, just a really weird little Twitter subculture going on with Vikings fans at the minute.
I mean, can you blame them? Like a year ago, 13-win team going to the playoffs, then they get blown out by Daniel Jones. They have a terrible draft. They don't do it in the offseason. Then they missed the playoffs this year, and now they've got to watch Green Bay in the playoffs again. They've got to watch the Lions in the playoffs again. And they're probably worse than the Bears right now. So they've gone from playoffs and 13-win team to worst team in the NFC North in 12 months. But shouldn't be mad at us for that, Vikings. Look at your GM and your head coach.
I mean, I think the Bears fans, they're kind of distracted by the whole Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, fiery Eberflus. I think that's kind of occupying them at the moment. I think the Vikings fans are just trying to find something to be relevant because they don't really have anything. I
will say one thing, though. We need to go further than the Packers do. We can't let the Packers be the last NFC North team standing in year 1 of Jordan Love. Or we will never, ever, ever, ever hear the end of it. So
Jordan Love's looking really good. And he was amazing. Worrying.
Could you imagine? An NFC Championship game against the Packers.
Can we talk about the Cowboys game?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the rest of the games that have happened already, and then we're going to end the audio pod. And then on after time here, we're going to take a couple of questions, and we've got Ash's Dan presser notes to go through as well. So briefly on the other games this weekend. But let's start with Houston, because that was the first game that happened. Cleveland, Houston, and it was competitive for a while, and then Houston pulled away. And I mean, CJ Stroud, should we call him maligned as an Ohio State quarterback because he couldn't beat the one team that really mattered? But looked great in the Natty that, ended up losing, even though they should have won that game. And then he comes out and just looks like the player that he was at Ohio State, apart from he's winning the big games now.
This is making Ryan Day look really bad. Like, in fairness, like how you can't win one playoff game with this kid is unreal. The Texans are just amazing, aren't they? Like, they've still not got the most household names in the world, and they're still getting it done somehow. But again, they're spreading the ball out well. The quarterback's looking really good. D'Amico and Dan really should be sharing head coach
it
of
needs
the
to
year
be a
at this
share.
rate. I
Absolutely.
think it should be a share between these two because he's done an incredible job in a situation probably just as hard as Dan's, because I don't think anyone was expecting out of the Texans this year. The Lions, at least we had expectations about us, but they've just picked Stroud, they've just picked Anderson, and in a fairly competitive division. And they blew the Browns away like they were nothing.
And the amazing thing
yeah.
about the Texans is that everyone is harping on about Nico Collins like he's been their guy all year, but he hasn't been. That was Tank Dell, and he's not there. And they're still doing it.
And they've just lost Noah Brown, who was their guy as well. It's like they just seem to absorb these losses on an already thin roster and carry on making production. So it's who do they play next now? Are they?
They will be playing the winner of this game, I think it is.
No, they'll be playing the Ravens unless the
It's the 4th seed, aren't they?
The Steelers win, yeah.
So
Yes,
they need
unless the
someone
Steelers
below them. Yeah.
And just while you're mentioning Coach of the Year, a bit like Amon-Ra St. Brown's got a list of every wide receiver drafted before him, I've got a list somewhere of every head coach that people have tried to put down as ahead of Dan Campbell for Coach of the Year. And I mean, like, can you believe that Shane Steichen had better odds of getting Coach of the Year at one point a few weeks ago? And also on that list was Kevin Stefanski,
who by the way, is currently, I think, 9-1 on to win it.
That's the thing, because obviously, it's all voted for before now, so it's done I think it's done at the end of week 17. So,
but still,
week 18
how he is such a heavy favorite. I mean,
and
honestly, if D'Amico Ryans was a heavy favorite, I could see it. But
such a bad game, and the Browns just never ever adapted to that Houston offense, and they were overly aggressive, and he just got more aggressive, sending the blitzes, and Stroud just feasted on it. So it just pisses me off, like how overlooked Campbell is sometimes.
Yeah. So with Stefanski, it's number one because he doesn't touch defense at all. That's Schwartz. Schwartz was getting aggressive, but the reason that he's so high is because the Browns are the only team to make the playoffs in NFL history with a different starting left tackle, right tackle, running back, and quarterback than the ones they started at the start of the season. He has overcome a lot of big injuries.
But their roster, if you put their rosters on paper at the start of the season with the Texans, who were a complete joke, like very quickly because Stroud was way better than expected, but very quickly everyone forgot how much of a joke the Texans were. Them and the Cardinals
said they were tanking
they were going to be. Exactly, it was. They were both
saying they're tanking again.
I don't disagree. I'm just trying to explain why I'm trying to. Explain
completely. So that's not to you. It's more. I think it's bonkers how we've just accepted the Texans are what they are, and CJ Stroud's been incredible and takes a lot of credit for that, but that is not a particularly good football team in terms of depth of roster.
So 12 months ago, the roster rankings were done by Locked On NFL Scouting, and they said about the team for the Texans last year, they weren't trying. Not that they were tanking, that they were actively taking rostering players who had no future in the NFL. And it's like, and in 1 year, they've won a playoff game. I mean, fuck Stefanski. I think D'Amico Ryans has a better case than Dan Campbell because the Texans were a lot worse than we were at the start of this year, and they've won a playoff game too. And it sucks for Dan, but I really would go to bat for D'Amico Ryans.
I think they've both done a great job in their own right.
Yeah,
the Texans have more history, even though, especially in the playoffs and that recently, Detroit doesn't. It's historically been the home of losers. And that's even harder to overcome than what he has. But I kind of like but going back to the game, I like what both teams did. How we nullified Donald, they nullified Garrett, who did nothing in that game. He was a pure spectator. They ran the ball well to keep him off on passing downs and then just threw it over him when he came. Like two of the best pass rushers in the league did absolutely nothing this week against our two teams. And you've got to give it up to the head coaches for scheming for that.
Next game on the slate was Miami, Kansas City, and Miami just shat the bed, right?
Can we say Mike McDaniel's a fraud now, please?
No. I'm not putting that on him specifically.
All this talking about head coaches, I'll say this: he's a Walmart Dan Campbell. He does the good rah-rah speeches, and I think he comes across well in that. But you telling me his team did not quit on him in this, because his team quit on him in this, and Dan's team would never do that. And
His team is the epitome of a warm weather team. They're not built to win in January.
It's like the Cowboys, really.
Yes. Yep.
You destroy, but the record against winning teams is a big indicator there that he's almost hit a ceiling with them right now and can't seem to get above that ceiling. But I don't think he's certainly at the level that people say is that, and he's got to prove, like Dan's had to prove himself. Like, people can laud Dan for the job he's done all they want, but until he actually gets results, they won't believe he's legitimate. Well, I mean, he's got the results now. Well, he's getting there. I think that Mike is a bit. I wouldn't put him up there right now. He's got a lot to prove before he goes into the coaching ranks, even with the likes of Dan now. For me,
I think how he reacts to his defeat will be really important. But I mean, there was that one bit when Mahomes took off and both Eli Apple and Duke Riley whiffed out of tackling him. Like, just unbelievable. You cannot imagine a Dan Campbell player doing that. It was just shocking in a playoff.
I have really enjoyed watching them on Hard Knocks, though. I do like him. I think there is something to him, but something's not right yet.
And then coming on to the game that everyone wants to talk about, Green Bay 48, Dallas 32, in a scoreline which really flatters Dallas as well. They were utterly blown away. And would you believe me if I said that Dak Prescott almost had 3 times the number of throws that Jordan Love had? Jordan Love threw the ball 21 times. Dak Prescott threw it 60 times.
Fun fact, after this, the Green Bay Packers have more playoff wins at AT&T Stadium than the Cowboys do.
I said that they're undefeated there. They're free.
And the Cowboys love to have a go at us. It's like,
yeah, because they're 6-0 there. They've won a Super Bowl there. They're 2-0 in the playoffs and 3-0 in the regular season at Jerry World.
Yeah,
that's mad.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they come up against their kryptonite next, which is the 49ers. They never play well against the 49ers. But I mean, this was, again, wasn't it weird? So you're the Dallas Cowboys. You have been unbeaten at home in 16? You've won the NFC East. You've come through a pretty rough schedule. You've got some great wins on the card. I don't know about everybody else, but did it not look like from the get-go that team didn't look bothered? That team came out with such low levels of energy on defense, like 8 minutes and a touchdown for the first drive. Green Bay is so good at that, but the offense came out and it just didn't look bothered. The defense didn't look bothered. It was so weird. You're like, you're at home in the playoffs. You're in form. You're on the biggest stage of them all. And it looked like they were an 0-16 team who'd given up on the season and were waiting to go to Cabo. I don't know if people agree with that.
I think it's Mike McCarthy.
I think for me, it was a team that believed that they were going to the divisional round before they played the wild card, and they were just like, well, but we're winning this game, so whatever. And then they couldn't pick themselves up when they realised that it wasn't just going to be handed to them on a plate.
Yeah,
I just don't think they took the Packers seriously. I don't. They seemed undercooked, underprepped, undermotivated. That they just seemed to think they were going to just stroll through 4 quarters and dispose of the Packers and then start thinking about like the 49ers or whatever. They just didn't look prepared. Yeah. It was fucking funny.
It was though.
They had 3 receivers, Dallas, go over 90 yards. And they were blown away. Jake Ferguson got a hat trick. Like,
the worrying thing is, like, Jordan Love is making guys like Dontavian Wicks look like superstars.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is not knocking Dontavian Wicks. This is they said they are working with receivers who are a mismatch of guys just thrown together. A lot of drafted guys. Some have some good grades on them, like draft wise, but a lot are just like Daubs, Wicks. And Daubs looks amazing. Like, I love Romeo Doubs, and he does great there. But Wicks is becoming big. Tucker Kraft, they're taking him out the FCS, and he looks like a seasoned veteran. Like, not just as a receiver, he's really good on the line as well. It's disturbing, let's say, how quick they've come on. because something just seemed to switch with Love. And I despised in this game the amount of times whoever it was who was calling it was like, oh, it was Greg Olson, which annoyed the piss out of me. It all changed at Thanksgiving. It's like, shut the hell up about that Thanksgiving game. But he is right. Something seems to have switched with them from that game, and they're as form a team as anybody.
The scariest part about this game are these statistics for me. Jaden Reed, no catches. Christian Watson, 1 catch for 9 yards. Tucker Kraft, who looks really good, 2 catches for 15 yards. Dontavian Wicks looks like a superstar. 2 catches, 25 yards. Like, all the production came from Dobbs. But really, they can spread it about between Dobbs, Musgrave, Wicks, Kraft, Jones, Watson, Reed, and Bo Melton ripped us a new one. Like, they've legitimately got 8 passable receiving weapons.
And Aaron Jones is running the ball really well. He looks back to his best again, which is not good. Like, that offense has not been good while he's had downtime, and he's not looked great. He looks at his best again.
But how bad was the Cowboys secondary? I mean, I think on the Musgrave touchdown, he had 17 yards separation. I think it was the highest separation of any touchdown this season.
Was that the touchdown that wasn't dissimilar to a Sam Laporta touchdown earlier in the year, where it was a bootleg throw to a receiver who chips and then releases? Yeah. It was like, I remember that play.
Yeah, you're saying about the secondary, that's the issue of playing too much man, and they're the most man-heavy team, and their corners gamble. It's obviously Trayvon Diggs did it before he got to his ACL. Their other star one who leads the league, he gambles as well. But like us, at least, symptomatic again, safeties didn't help. And when Love has that chemistry with them, because that is the scary thing, is that he's got this chemistry now with all these first and second year receivers. They're going to grow into it. Like Christian Watson, I remember last year, he was seen as like, oh yeah, he could be a really good like wide receiver 1 in the league. He hasn't hit form at all. He's been injured and all that. Dubes, who admittedly me and Ant and Rye for a bit liked as like a possession guy at Nevada, he's stepped up to the plate. Dontavian Wicks is a decent like route runner. The fact that they've still got room to grow together, like, we've got to continue our like draft strategies and that keep being good, because if they can fully get it together like year 4 of like together and that, they could be a really damn good offense. Yeah, okay, Jones is probably going to get replaced soon, but it's outside. It's his own running back. They can draft someone like late day 3 from that's a bit speedy and a bit light and plug and play him. Basically, it's scary. It's that defense.
How long before Jerry fires anyone?
I'm surprised it's not happened already, if I'm honest.
I think he's waiting to confirm like a contract with Bill, and he's going to do it because there is supposedly heavy mutual interest between Jerry and Bill for Bill to be the new Cowboys head coach.
One thing about the Packers and their progression through the rest of the tournament and going to San Francisco is the one thing in this game which notably happened was the Cowboys coming back. I don't think it wasn't just a thing of the Packers putting their foot off the gas. The Packers had 4 or 5 significant injuries to key players on defense late in the game. So if some of those guys don't play next weekend, they're fucked. Like, they got no chance against the 49ers in that offense if they're not fully healthy on defense. And Jair Alexander coming to play in this game was a massive deal for them, but even he was like a game time decision. So he might not go next week.
I think he only played like 1 half. I think he was out for the rest of it.
Yeah. Can you imagine that Packers defense with Brian Branch in it?
And I mean, the thought of Belichick at the Cowboys is just so mental. And I was amusing myself in the chat by imagining Bill Belichick being made to say, "How about them Cowboys?" in his opening press conference, and whether he would deliver the line with the enthusiasm of "We're on to Cincinnati." But it just sounds like such an odd match.
It'd be like having 2 Emperor Palpatines, wouldn't it? Like, just 2 evil old guys, but like they'll be fighting for power with one another. You can't imagine
doing the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, you couldn't imagine that Bill's going to go there and have Jerry tell him what to do. Like, Bill won't take that. So
yeah,
I can't say
like,
But Bill's the world's worst GM, so He should have that power taken away, and I hope he realizes it.
See, this is the sad thing. It's like coming to the draft this year. It's like, what team's going to make a stupid pick in the first round to make us all go, ooh, now? Like the Raiders, the Patriots, it's over. Like,
Yeah.
We used to love the Raiders for that, but the Pats have been terrible at drafting recently. So I don't know who's going to be that team now.
Yeah. Right, we're going to draw the audio pod to a close here before we take some questions, talk about the Dan Campbell press conference that's just happened. Our next show is on the main podcast Thursday, where we're doing our Tampa Bay or Philadelphia Eagles preview show for the divisional round. Can you believe it? College football podcast, and again, remind me.
So yeah, we're doing Hula Bowl roster this week, the defense. The game was on Saturday, so we're going to review that as well.
All right. You can follow us on our socials on Raw the Lions UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the Facebook group for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans UK 1 Pride Worldwide. Some lovely photos and images from our own Ryan Farden, who was in the crowd at Ford Field on Sunday, and I believe will be in the crowd again in Ford Field on Sunday. So go and check out that Facebook group if you want to see some cool stuff from on the field. Website, rotluk.com. Good preview articles from Ash up there. And had a recent blog post as well about Stafford and Goff, which was well worth your time. Please don't forget to subscribe and rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider. Otherwise, just remains for me to thank all of you guys for breaking this game down. A moment of Lions history. To all of you guys for listening. Enjoy it, because if you can't, then what are we doing here? 32 years in the making. But we move on to the next one. Boys, let's go Lions 1 Pride.
Pride.
FTP.
Recording stopped.
And then Mike Marine had a couple of questions. One was, do you think the media was biased to the Rams, or am I overreacting as a homer? I didn't think it was too much more than any other playoff game, to be honest.
Collins I think he was being biased. Like, he kept talking every other line about how Jared Goff was terrible under pressure, and you're like, have you even watched us this year? Like, he's one of the best under pressure. He made that one throw that Donald threw. He's like, oh yeah, I told you so. You're like, it was annoying. But they all turned on us at the last minute. Like, the entire ESPN channel said, oh yeah, Rams are going to win, including Dan. We feel a little betrayed by that. And it was like, well, they all just got the last minute jitters going, oh yeah, Lions are going to lion. But we didn't.
And Mina Climbs as well. But yeah, I had my moan about it yesterday. I did feel it was a bit Ram-centric, not just obviously the TV coverage, but just the whole lead up. Like, everything was about Stafford, Rams and all this. Where was the stuff about saying Stafford's revenge game? Where? He asked to be traded.
Yeah.
They don't have the revenge game. It's Goff, it's Josh Reynolds, and it's Jake McQuaid. Guess what? They all played pretty damn well. McQuaid, okay, except for the snap for the 54-yard field goal where Fox had to spin it round so the laces were facing the right way. McQuaid played pretty damn well. Josh Reynolds obviously played pretty damn well in that first half, and then Goff dealt. Like, it was just constant. I know obviously the Rams are the bigger market and the bigger name team, but it was just constant Rams, Stafford, little to no coverage of Detroit. Like, you're in Detroit. Go interview people there. Go to the bars and that and say, what does this mean to you? How does this make you feel? No, it's just all Rams. And so it did. It pissed me off a bit, but I have my massive
I'd love to have been
the
the ESPN or like social media guy that was like, come on guys, let's get behind the Jake McQuaid revenge game. Like, nah.
No, what I mean is, like, so even what I mean is be a bit more balanced about it. So saying it's a staff revenge game when it wasn't, when it actually does, just be a bit more balanced about it. Say some stuff about Detroit rather it just be this, like, for example, the fucking picture that NFL tweeted out of like Stafford.
That was disgusting.
That was fucking exactly. Like,
that was disgusting from the NFL.
And then I took the bait for it, but me having to tell people this is why. Because they're like, why are you booing Stafford? Like, number one, we're not, we're just booing all the Rams. But number two, why would we cheer for someone who asked to be traded and then, like, and that, and it proved it right with the fucking press conference afterwards. Maybe we're reading a bit too much into it, but when he's asked, "Oh, how do you feel about the situation for this?" "Oh yeah, I'm happy for the players." Well, fuck you too. You're just proving our points. He's been as bad as Kelly's rubbing off on him.
Ooh, on that note, I'm going.
Right. Cheers, guys.
See you later, guys.
See you soon, Steve. See you soon, Tom.
Yeah, I need to drop. Cheers, guys.
See you later.
I just did not read Stafford's press conference in any way, shape, or form the same way that basically anyone else did, apparently. All I saw was a hurt and broken man who lost consciousness on the field, who's the biggest warrior of them all, go up to the podium and get asked, "Are you happy?" Yeah. Not about anything in particular. Are you happy about anything, given that everything you worked for this season has just been obliterated? What do you want him to say? Like, I'm sorry, but the response is not going to be positive. And so he said he was happy for the players that he played with. What's wrong with that?
And just say, I know obviously I lost, but I take a bit of size. Obviously, because Kelly's done it today. She's come out with the platitudes, but it feels a little bit too late because obviously she's seen the backlash from what happened with that. If it's just said, obviously I'm very happy for the players I played with, and while yes, I've gone out, it's nice to know that at least a place I have connection with has gone through. Everyone will be fine. It's the fact he basically said that and then didn't say anything else. It's just a slight platitude and you don't really mean it. He's been in the league long enough to know how these presses work now, and he knows everything be read to the 9th degree. So protect yourself.
I didn't get bothered with him last week. It's like, I just stayed out the Stafford stuff. Let's just be like, he is what he is. He's an opposition quarterback now. Screw it. Right. We know it's not booing towards him. We know it's booing towards the Rams, etc. So
the thing is,
but this is the media thing, breaking it all up. It was a deliberate attempt last week to make it about Stafford, to rile up the Lions fan base and to try and split them down the middle, to have the pro-Stafford and anti-Stafford camps come out to cause them issues. And you could just see all week how they were irkily trying to do it. And again, going back to that graphic NFL did, it's like, you should be ashamed. Like, you're making us out to be some sort of simps who are still in love with Matt Stafford, even though he's divorced us and gone elsewhere, and we're not capable of standing on our own 2 feet without him. And it's like that's disrespectful. Like, that should be Jared Goff on there. Like, that was everything to Goff, that game was. And it was way more about him than about Stafford, and for them to make it about Staff just shows they were trying to flame anti-Stafford sentiment amongst the fan base and set the fans on one another. And, for Goff, it was everything. I mean, at the end, that was such a classy thing at the end. It's like, you're good enough for us. And it's like, damn right he's good enough for us. Like, the league gave up on him. The Rams gave up on him. And Dan showed what you can do. That's going to be a template for a lot of quarterbacks in the future. A lot of guys are going to take after Dan now, and I reckon they're going to start giving QBs more time, more backing, because they'll see what the end result is, because there's too many teams who cycle through them like they're trash and just end up in this cycle of perpetuity where they don't end up being good at all because quarterbacks know they're not appreciated there, they don't get looked after right, and it just is a cycle that goes on and on and on.
Yeah. I mean, it's been done to death now, and I've stopped caring. Like, everyone is right in this debate. There's no wrong answers. If you're in the anti-Stafford camp because you feel betrayed by a person you absolutely loved and you felt like he abandoned you at the point where he should have stuck by us, you're right. And if you feel like he did his time and he deserved a fresh start somewhere else because he'd suffered enough, you're right. And we can all just get on with our lives from that point. Like, who cares? I salute him as a long-tenured person who suffered along with the rest of us. And that's where I'm at. And it doesn't have to be any more than that.
No, but that was... Sorry, Ash, just quickly. That was the other thing where, like, everyone's like, oh, but Stafford gave so much to this city. What the fuck do you think Goff's given? Like, ever since he's come here, he's been doubted, he's been written off, he's been insulted. And over 3 years, he's taken everything that's been thrown at him and created this new version of himself, which has embraced the identity of his city completely. And all that despite everything that's happened to him. It's like he's sacrificed as much as anybody to this city. So screw what Stafford sacrificed. How about what a quarterback our guy has sacrificed? And to see the crowd chanting his name before the game
That was really
was
cool.
like, that was amazing from them, because it takes a lot of humility to admit you're wrong on something. And I've had to say this. I was wrong on him. I've had to eat this, and this is the whole thing. Despite us maybe losing our faith at some time, he always kept his, and he's brought us a winner here, and he's brought us a playoff game. So all this stuff about staff having sacrificed this and welcome back, it's like, well, so has Goff. So your point's mute.
Going through Dan's presser, thank you, Ash, for listing them. Praises all three phases of the game. Said starting prep for Philly only because they've played Tampa before, so if it is, then they've got a head start on that. They're going to watch the cut-ups of the game yesterday as soon as possible, but obviously they were there live.
So that was about tonight's game.
Oh,
so that's
right.
on the books.
I see. Okay, that's cool. Said Alex Anzalone should be okay after shoulder injury in game. Obviously, he was heavily strapped, so that's really good news considering he had a big game. And we didn't mention Alex Anzalone really had a missed tackle in there, but otherwise he was flying all over the field, good in coverage, so he had a really good game. Declines to explain schematic changes up front that Hutch mentioned in post-game press. They said it's there on tape. I'm not really sure to what that's referring.
So in his podium yesterday, Hutch's like, oh yeah, we made some adjustments up front, and you can see the bearing of fruit. So that's obviously, I don't know which report it was that asked it, but it was like, oh yeah, can you elaborate on that? And Dan was like, no, it's on tape, but I'm not going to give any strategic matchups. I think it's more the rotation on the edge and using Hutch on inside, because for the first time since he's probably became a starter for us, he played less than 80% of snaps. He played the same amount of snaps as Pascal.
Touchdown Bills as they go ahead. There was a fantastic touch by Dalton Kincaid in there. Kincaid? Yes.
Yeah, Kincaid had one earlier. Yeah, I saw that.
And then Dawson Knox just punched one in. Not punched one in.
What's a touch?
What?
You said a touch. You said he had a touch.
A catch.
A catch.
No, Matt said touch. You definitely said he had a touch.
My bad. I don't know. What else have we got in here? Brad and AG are going to do interviews after practice on Friday. CD Juice still mainly a third down package guy right now, which isn't true because he played the second most safety snaps out of the three of them. So
yeah,
I find that weird.
I think he means third downs and obvious passing downs, which was quite a lot because we stopped the run for mostly.
I guess so.
But yeah.
He said we can correct the explosives. One thing to give them up, but we can be better there. Both players bounced back after them. Rams checked into man beaters to cause interference. Adjustments in second half helped with stopping them. Said no idea what was going on with the play clock issue that gave Rams free timeout. Yeah, that was weird during the game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because
it's one of those where I think a player looked like they were hurt, and then they tried to stop it, and then he was fine, and then they didn't, and it's always odd with those.
But they corrected the clock once, and it was corrected, and then they corrected it again to the numbers that it already was.
I don't think it was corrected. My memory of it is it was 10 seconds too far gone. It wasn't right, but
right. But they corrected it twice in the same.
Yeah, they corrected it twice, but it wasn't right when they did. When they blew it dead.
Okay. Yeah.
At least that was I think it was about 10 seconds or so.
There was one other question by Mike the Marine, because that was the end of the presser. What do you think about James Houston and inactive choices for next week?
I guess it depends on who we play. Two very different teams.
Yeah.
So you will have to take schematics in, because they seem to have recently, Charles and Julian have been swapping in active duties. They seem to have certain people at the minute that, we never talked about that, did they? Tracy not been on. That's the first time he's ever been inactive during this.
Yeah.
That kind of feels ominous for him.
Yeah, he's done.
It already was. It was as soon as he got benched, we knew it was done.
Yeah, but
sad.
But it seems like they are been quite methodical with it. So I guess we would have to ask that when we know who we're playing. Because of course we know that Philly offense is a lot different to what you get with Tampa. Likewise
Exactly.
with the defenses as well.
But both of them are going to be, our defense is going to be helped by James Houston coming back, because you always need someone who can bend around the edge.
That'll be. Sorry,
I was going to say, in a way, if we're playing Philly, I would be less optimistic about him being activated than if we're playing Tampa, because, and I hate to keep dragging on this, the reason that Houston was so little used on special teams is because we couldn't trust him in run. And if we're playing a mobile quarterback, well, yes, he's got the athleticism and that to help with that. I don't think the team trusts him setting an edge against a Russian quarterback like Hurts. So if we're playing Tampa and Baker, it's only like a change of like 10%, but I'll be a bit more optimistic about him being activated because that's the perfect tune-up game for him. Immediately he'll be going against Tristan Wirfs, but because Baker's a statue in the pocket, it gives him a stable target to go for, so at least then he can test out how his ankle's going and that. Either way, I think he'll probably still be activated. It's probably just, if we're playing the Eagles, he will only be played on like third and longs, while if we're playing Tampa, he'll be used a bit more, and that's probably what we need him to do. We need to get him as many reps as possible, because if we go past Tampa and we're playing Purdy or Love, we need Houston to be a bit on his thing there. And then if we get into the Super Bowl, obviously, need him.
Yeah. See, usually I'd agree that if Hurts is playing hurt, I think that might change, because he's not running as much at the minute. Like, they'll not put him in danger on designed runs if that hand's injured.
But at the same time, if he can't throw a ball, they're going to have to lean into the QB run game, because with AJ Brown being out and him not able to throw a ball, they have to run the ball. And obviously, DeAndre Swift's fallen off a cliff. So what's the only weapon they have left? QB run game.
Marcus Mariota.
Oh, God.
Put Mariota in, and then we can send Hutch, Houston, the whole job lot of them after him.
True, yeah. Fucking hell.
I mean, that's what you do. That's what you do, isn't it? If you tamper in this game, it's just you can send everybody and target Hurts and try and knock him out the game. Because if you get Mariota in, you'll win.
Well, you saying that sparked something in my brain. Who would have thought the top two picks from the 2014 and 15 drafts, only one of them still a starter? The other three are backups.
Yeah, weird. Final question by Michael Lucci is just saying, what are you guys watching for in the TB Philly game tonight? And yes, Grandizer, that is a new shirt.
What am I watching for?
How Philly's pass game looks with a Hurts without AJ Brown. Because if we have to face Philly and AJ Brown's out, I'm a bit more optimistic about it, because I think Vildor / our corners will be able to handle Devonta Smith a lot damn easier. They can handle AJ Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll be watching the Eagles more, because they'll look at this. They'll not underestimate them, but they'll look at this as the tune-up game, because this is the easiest game they could have got. They'll be trying to get as much right. You want to see how they're doing the basics, if they're playing complementary football, if they look like they're getting, because if they look like they're getting back to what they were before, that's bad for us. But we've seen with these playoffs, anything can happen. Like Tampa are playing with house, we talk about playing with house money. Tampa are playing with house money. No one's expecting them to go there and win. So, I mean, to win this. What is that?
Chargers to confirm they've just completed their head coaching interview with Jim Harbaugh. I'm here for
that. Makes a lot of sense. But I kind of want Harbaugh to go somewhere where he'll trade up for the number one pick and pick JJ McCarthy just for the laughs.
You don't have to trade up if you've already got the number one pick. Just fire Eberflus and take Harbaugh.
Go there. That's what I'd have done with him, but he's as good as Andrew Luck apparently, so that's worth a number one overall pick.
All right, shall we call this an evening?
Yeah, gonna watch some Bills and Pittsburgh.
Panthers, someone's looking into the future.
There we go.
I still want the Steelers to win this, but
it can happen. They were getting some good work on the first drive with Warren and Najee. So,
are you getting worried about your Tampa pick now, Matt? Because you're doing your six-fold and
no, I'm happy with it. I'm really happy with it. If anything, I'm more confident now than when I put it on. But that isn't to say that I won't necessarily think about cashing out. But the bigger thing is that I need a Tampa win by 11. That pays me more money than my fourfold.
Well, I mean, again, the Giants did it, so why not the Bucks?
I feel like the Bucks can just bury him. I really feel like the matchup is bad for Philly. It all depends on whether Baker can actually get passing the ball, because their passing offense has struggled recently.
And getting Rashad White going. I can't remember, but I feel like there's some correlation when he gets above a certain yardage, they win games. Because too often he doesn't get much yardage, and then it's all on Baker, and then it's usually a bit too much. Like, he's not a quarterback you lean on to go and throw 500 yards and win a game on his own. You need to run with it. But Philly just, I don't know what's gone on with them. They don't look... That's going to be a fascinating study if they go out here. Like, them and the Jaguars, like so many teams who have just absolutely choked the bed.
Nice.
Are we showing bling?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's got the biggest chain?
Well, mine is not particularly big, but I really love it. I really want to get one of those ridiculous chains that Michael Banks has.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be really
Top
cool.
price.
But anyway, cheers everyone for this. Thank you for tuning in with us for the last 2.5 hours. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you are still bathing in the glory that is a Detroit Lions playoff win. We'll see you for the college show, for the divisional round preview show, which I still can't believe are words coming out of my mouth. Guys, thanks for the extra time. People will see you later on in the week. For now, enjoy it. Have a drink. See you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Fuck the Bears.